All right, stick with me here. We are diving into a wild regression story. Our guy Gray is walking through Villa Ranabu when a bully named Belder challenges him, just to beat him up and publicly humiliate him. But this time, the bullying stops right now. Gray grabs his sword, and Belder launches a totally cheap shot before the duel even officially begins. Gray dodges every single strike with crazy precision. He had never moved like this before, and Belder instantly starts sweating, realizing something is seriously wrong. It gets even crazier. Gray literally closes his eyes, just waiting for the perfect opening. In a flash, he smacks the blade right out of Belder's hands. The bully instantly admits defeat. But sorry, that is not enough for Gray. He is no coward anymore, and everyone in that room needs to know it. So he brings his sword down with absolute full force, slamming the bully. Do not panic though, just a grazing blow. Gray is not the bad guy today. He just wants to teach him a lesson. So, boom, he whacks him with the flat of the blade, sending Belder completely flying. To the shocked crowd watching. And especially to Belder, this former punching bag suddenly looks like an absolute boss. His goons decide to rush him all at once, stupidly thinking a 4 versus 1 might work. Yeah, it did not work. All 4 end up completely destroyed, heads ringing from too many brutal hits to count. Gray then lays down the law. From this moment on, none of these losers will ever look down on him again, because if they do, they will end up exactly like this leaf. Right in front of their faces, he slices it perfectly in half. Belder runs off crying, screaming he needs fresh underwear. Now pay close attention, because here is the crazy twist. Gray has a dark secret. 15 years in the future, he was part of an elite squad built to fight the world's absolute worst nightmare, the Liquidator. An apocalyptic entity that literally deleted a whole continent off the map. To stop it, Earth's absolute strongest warriors teamed up. A dude who tanked a giant's attack with 0 scratches. A sage packing the sheer firepower of an entire army. A sniper archer who one-shotted a massive dragon. And the most legendary swordswoman to ever live. But guess what? Every single one got completely wiped out. Gray watched his squad die, totally helpless. He was just a low-ranked grunt, a completely disposable pawn whose name nobody even cared to remember. But right when it was game over, something insane happened. An unexplained, godlike power kept him breathing when he absolutely should have been dead. A cosmic being named Kronos showed up with a wild revelation. Gray's hidden power was actually stronger than the Liquidator's. The catch? He had 0 clue how to use it. So Gray gets tossed back into the fight, wielding a black sword sparking with red lightning. He charges the beast head-on and actually wounds the Liquidator. Something Earth's greatest legends entirely failed to do. But sadly, it still was not enough. The monster was basically untouchable in its own dimension, and Gray was totally reckless with his new buff. So Kronos steps in to fix this mess. He hits the rewind button on the monster and throws Gray way back into the past. Time to learn everything from scratch, and this time, get it right. Gray opens his eyes, back in Villa Ranabu, 15 years before the apocalypse. And literally seconds after respawning, he bumps straight into Belder and his toxic gang. We definitely know how that beatdown ended. With 4 bullies begging on the floor, Gray sheathes his blade and glares at Belder. He just wants one simple thing. A fast pass referral to the Shinseira dojo. He desperately needs to enter the world's top academy, and this crying bully on the floor is his quickest ticket in. Belder rushes to the dojo to recommend him. Walking through town, he asks our main character why he even cares about this specific dojo. Gray explains he is strictly using them for an academy recommendation. One of the goons is super confused, saying Gray is already insanely strong without needing any fancy school. But Gray makes it clear, his current strength level is totally pathetic right now, because, I know what you're thinking, how is he weak? Well, even Earth's ultimate elite squad got wrecked by the Liquidator. His black sword power barely did a thing. He has no idea how incredibly overpowered he needs to be to win. But there are definite clues to reach that god-tier level. And he is hunting them down. For a split second, he feels that dark energy again. His new goal, master the legendary art of the Holy Swordsman. If he had just trained his raw sword skills like that legendary hero did, the apocalyptic future would change. That is exactly why Kronos rewound his life. Fast forward to the dojo. Belder's master is absolutely furious that he used her martial arts techniques to beat up a random civilian. Sarah, the fierce dojo instructor, is super disappointed. Belder tries scrambling for excuses, claiming it was not a street fight, just an intense sparring session. Instantly, Sarah smacks Belder super hard with her wooden sword to shut him up. She completely snaps at him, yelling to drop the pathetic excuses. Because jumping an unarmed kid is definitely not training. Pointing her blade at his face, she kicks him out forever. She looks at his gang and immediately expels all of them too. The 4 losers walk out totally depressed, while Sarah officially apologizes to Gray. She heard he wanted that sweet academy recommendation. So, as a huge apology for her garbage students, she offers to write him the official letter herself. But hold on, first she has to test his actual skills. She tosses him a standard wooden sword. She gives him the first strike in their spar. Gray instantly dashes forward, launching rapid attacks while Sarah blocks perfectly. Sarah is shocked. His sword techniques are insanely practical for a kid. She realizes he has seen real combat, especially when he smoothly dodges her counterattack. His raw, self-taught fighting style looks surprisingly similar to the elite techniques they teach at the academy. As he unloads a heavy combo, Sarah wonders who on earth trained this kid. He has wild talent, an absolute diamond in the rough kneading polish. After tanking his crazy fast strikes, Sarah actually apologizes. She decides to go totally all out, determined to crush him and finally finish this entrance test. Gray perfectly dodges it all. Trust me, you and I must see what happens next. Let's dive right into this crazy fight. He was dodging her non-stop attacks like a total pro. Sarah just wanted a quick test. But suddenly she was sweating, going all out. Why was this kid so terrifying? Then boom, Gray unleashed a totally wild, evil slash. Sarah dodged it fast, her gut screaming that something was super wrong. The hit looked sloppy, leaving him wide open, so she moved in to finish this whole thing. But nope, her wooden sword completely exploded on impact. The blade went flying, and Gray felt that exact same crazy surge again. He realized he was using that insane time entity power. Instantly, the backlash hit him hard. He collapsed to his knees, his weak body totally frying from the juice. He barely stood, playing it off. He swore to himself to keep that power locked away. Plus, telling Sarah the truth right now, yeah, she definitely wouldn't buy a single word. Gray tried laughing it off, saying he just got way too hyped, but Sarah knew blunt swords definitely do not snap like that. She could tell he was lying through his teeth, but seeing him dodge the question so hard, she just sighed and let it slide. Getting back to business, Sarah said she could absolutely write him an academy recommendation. A swordsmanship academy. Literally the top-tier school in the kingdom, but sadly, he was way too weak for that place. Gray completely agreed. Without his crazy cheat power, he was basically useless and totally lacking the raw strength needed. Watch closely, here is the wild part. She told him to aim for the Unified World Academy instead, the most legendary school globally. Hearing that name dropped his jaw. I mean, that was the exact place where the holy swordsman and all the epic heroes came from. Gray nervously asked if they would even let a guy like him in. Sarah kept it real, absolutely not. His body was a joke. At the Royal Academy, his pure technique might actually carry him, but the Unified World Academy? Yeah, they would crush him on day one. Sarah was honestly baffled how a kid made of glass had such insanely good skills. Gray knew that academy was packed with literal monsters, and he wasn't even close yet. Still, Sarah told him to wipe that frown off his face. They had exactly 9 months before the exam. Sure, 9 months was a super tight deadline, but she told him to trust the process. She was about to put him through literal hell to get him ready. Gray really hated the sound of torture, but he swallowed his fear. He begged her to be his master. Smirking, Sarah welcomed him to boot camp. Time skipped forward. Gray ate like an absolute beast and trained until he dropped. Fast forward 8 months, and our boy was absolutely shredded. Just pure muscle now. Sarah looked at his new bulky build and admitted she had zero left to teach him. He needed to head out early for a mystery exam location. She tossed him cash for the trip and supplies, but Gray was suspicious. Leaving a whole month early felt way too sketchy. He legit thought she was kicking him out of the village for good. Sarah laughed it off. Then Gray brought up the huge problem. A deadly ogre nest was found nearby, with barely any guards around. Sarah waved it off, swearing the royal capital was sending backup so it wasn't their problem. She told him to just go pack. You and I both know she was totally lying, right? Gray knew the truth. No knights were ever coming to save them. History said she died fighting that horde alone, right before the village burned down. Gray bowed and said goodbye. Sarah promised to pray for his exam success, but that very night, she snuck into the dark woods. She had tracked the monster nest perfectly, but suddenly, a voice dropped from the trees. Gray casually asked where she was going, shocking her. She freaked out, yelling that he should be miles away by now. He fired back, asking about the royal army that was supposedly coming. Busted, Sarah made up an excuse, saying an emergency delayed the troops, so she was flying solo. She acted all tough, swearing she could handle it. She read the scout report, 1 big elite boss ogre and 45 regular grunts. Even outnumbered, she was completely confident, but Gray knew an elite ogre was not a joke. Their real danger was their smarts and pack tactics. Going in alone was straight-up suicide for her. If he actually left town like she wanted, his master would be dead meat. The village would fall. He had literally seen that exact horrible future happen, so he demanded to tag along. But Sarah stubbornly refused his help. Gray argued he needed the combat practice and swore he wouldn't slow her down. Honestly, she couldn't even beat him in sparring anymore. He definitely was not a weak link now. But a wild monster nest was completely unpredictable and highly dangerous. Sarah firmly believed he needed way more experience before doing something this risky. She said no. Since she was being so incredibly stubborn, Gray had a brilliant idea. He would just beat her unconscious and handle the ogres all by himself. He literally leveled his blade at his own master. Seeing him so dead serious, Sarah finally caved in. But she made him swear on his life to survive. He dropped his sword and promised he was not dying today. He demanded she survive too. They marched toward the deadly ogre nest in the dark mountains. And trust me, you are gonna want to see what happens next. All right, you and I are jumping right into the madness. These smart, nasty ogres built their nest in a trap zone with 0 escape routes. Dealing with them means extreme caution. Our duo couldn't spot the ogre boss yet, probably chilling in the main tent. So, the plan, thin out the mob before the big guy steps outside. His master tells Gray to wipe out the grunts on one side, while she flanks around the other path to slice up the rest of the horde. Blades out, the two blast forward at lightning speed. Honestly, these ugly monsters barely even realize they are under attack before getting absolutely struck down. They drop a bunch of them instantly until a furious pack charges back. Gray just pulls back his sword and rips a massive spinning slash, deleting several enemies at once. One brute swings a massive axe, but Gray easily slices its belly open. Meanwhile, the master swordswoman completely wrecks her side without taking a single scratch. Between Gray and Sarah, the basic mob is entirely cleared out. Sarah asks if this is his first real fight, but he just tells her to stay sharp. Gray feels something is off. These ugly monsters seem way too weak. He knows Sarah could solo them easily, unless a total nightmare is hiding in that main tent. He glances over, and boom, giant, terrifying red eyes staring right back. Gray completely panics, ordering his master to fall back immediately. Absolutely terrified, he screams at her that they need to run right now. So they start sprinting for their lives, but suddenly, an elite ogre crashes through, wrecking the camp. Sarah jokes that it is an honor for the boss to greet them. But our boy shuts that down fast. That is not the boss, the real one is standing right behind him. Now watch closely, because this is where everything goes insane. The real chief unleashes a deafening roar, whipping the horde into a total frenzy. This absolute unit is way stronger than any elite. Gray realizes it is an ogre general, the actual nest boss. And Sarah knows right away a general is not something they can just take down by themselves. The new plan: smoke the elite ogre and bail. Sarah blocks a heavy axe chop from the elite using her sword. She completely slices its chest open, but the wound just heals up instantly. Gray explains that the general's roar actually buffs his minions' strength and gives them insane health recovery. That is exactly why these orcs are suddenly absolute tanks. Even the weakest grunts are suddenly super hard to put down. Our MC leaves his back to the master swordswoman, telling her to just buy some time, no need to win. Gray knows there is only one option left: take down that ogre general for good. He rushes into a pure one-on-one showdown against the boss. He knows it is a massive pain when these guys try flanking and jumping him from behind. Right then, he barely dodges a sneaky orc swinging at his back, forcing him to focus hard on clearing the enemies directly in his face. But suddenly, snap, his blade shatters right in half. The regular steel just could not handle clashing with a severely buffed monster. A strike comes flying, and he blocks with just his broken hilt. He realizes the boss totally read his plan. Which is exactly why it is swinging so brutally. This big guy's intelligence is definitely real. Gray snatches another sword from the ground to block the heavy axe chops. His master quickly tosses him a second blade, letting him dual wield. But honestly, even rocking two swords isn't enough to wipe out this massive crowd. He's facing a general and a whole mob, after all. Suddenly, the big boss roars again, giving his minions another massive power boost. He crosses both blades to block a brutal combo. Using his entire body weight, he shoves the giant axe aside, clears a path, and charges directly into the screaming monster crowd. Slashing forward in a straight line, he scores a few hits, but takes a brutal shot directly to his shoulder. With zero time to breathe, Gray eats more heavy hits pushing forward. Trying to carve a path, a massive brute suddenly grabs him tight around the waist, locking him down while another freak goes for a kill shot. The strike lands hard right on his shoulder. They are literally breaking his gear and wearing him down fast. Right then, a totally enraged beast throws a massive punch at Gray's head. He blocks it with the blade, but the impact completely shatters the steel. Gray goes flying backward, bleeding out from the previous cuts and that insane punch. He hits the dirt hard, holding absolutely nothing but broken steel. I know what you are thinking. Can he actually beat a horde and a general with just one blade? It definitely looks like game over here. Thanks to all his past life regression experience, Gray knows instantly that brute force will not win this fight. Facing facts. He screams for his master to run while he takes the aggro. But Sarah just laughs, apologizes, and tells him there is absolutely no way she's leaving. Gray yells that she can't die here and shouldn't worry about his life. But she admits it isn't about loyalty. Her leg is completely busted, so running is impossible. With that bloody leg wound, her only option is fighting to the death. But remember, Gray went back in time specifically to crush the Liquidator. It feels like history repeating itself. He swings again, his last sword shatters, and despair hits hard. But no way, he absolutely refuses to let it end like this. If he taps into the Black Swordsman's power, he can flip this. Activating that dark energy would instantly turn these monsters into absolute weaklings. He digs deep, trying to recall that exact feeling of facing the Liquidator. Closing his eyes, he forces that intense focus straight into the broken blade. Eyes snap open, and his entire body is dripping in dark shadows. He swings the broken hilt, unleashing a massive magical wave of dark energy that absolutely obliterates the entire line of ogres instantly. Sarah does not even see the attack connect, but she definitely notices a bunch of monsters dropping dead. Smiling like an absolute badass while shadows wrap around him, he says it's fine. Wiping out the horde leaves the boss completely terrified. Then, boom, one clean shadow strike, and the general is deleted. Sarah easily blocks another desperate axe swing. She complains the grunt annoyed her and chops it to pieces. Without the boss buffing their stats, the remaining mob goes right back to being totally weak. So what do you and I take from this epic win? Gray masters his dark powers, apologizes for breaking her sword, and she smiles. Honestly, what a wild fight. All right, stick with me here. She asks about that insane attack but gets zero answers. Why? Gray just hits the dirt, completely exhausted. She is screaming her lungs out, begging him to wake up. But our guy? He is already gone, waking up inside some totally pitch-black, mysterious void. Right in front of him, a huge door locked in heavy iron chains. Black and red energy flares up, and boom, he instantly recognizes that crazy power. He thinks maybe opening this thing gives him ultimate power. But the second he steps up, a cold, death-like monster vibe creeps up right behind him. Instinct screams at him, "Open that door right now," and it is game over. A creepy voice tells him he made the smart play by holding back. Gasping for air, Gray finally wakes up in a real bed. His master is super hyped, telling him he has been knocked out cold for 5 whole days. She honestly thought he was a goner. The kid pushed past every human limit until his body just completely shut down. Even that is an understatement after he soloed the orcs and their general. She quickly asks if he is okay and if he can move. Gray tries flexing his right arm, but it is just violently shaking. Moving it takes extreme effort. He is low-key terrified he will never hold a sword again. Plus, there is this sketchy, shadow-like bruise. Hoping she cannot see it, he admits his arm is totally dead. Sarah breaks the bad news. Every single bone in that right arm is shattered. Healing up is going to take some serious time. Now watch closely here. He felt zero pain, completely clueless about the broken bones, until she reveals they used a magic potion. Gray is absolutely mind-blown. Those potions cost a fortune. Sarah explains the village chief actually gifted it. Why drop that kind of cash on some random kid? His master smiles. Dude, you are literally the hero of this town now. That totally catches him off guard. Right on cue, the chief walks in, practically bowing as he thanks Gray for saving everyone. That ogre general was a walking natural disaster. With zero backup coming from neighbors, the chief admits they would have been completely wiped off the map without Gray stepping up. So yeah, the magic potion. Just a small token of gratitude for saving literally every single life here. Gray thinks the guy is just hyping him up. But the chief looks him dead in the eye, no exaggeration, they were doomed without him. And Gray knows it is the absolute truth. In his past life before rewinding time, those ogres turned this place into a graveyard. The chief offers more details, dropping that he already knows about the big academy entrance exam. And Gray suddenly remembers, there are only 2 days left to make it. The World Union Academy is a 3-day walk. A horse gets him there in one, but he is completely flat broke. So he awkwardly asks to borrow a ride. But the chief is way ahead of him, already prepping the absolute best horse in town. Syria laughs, saying if he had not woken up today, they were literally going to haul his sleeping body over there. Pushing the doors open, Gray freezes. The entire village is out there, holding up signs, cheering him on, and wishing their local hero massive luck on his exams. Someone hands him a heavy bag. The whole town actually pooled their cash together to cover his academy enrollment fees, completely overwhelmed with joy. Gray thanks them, swearing he cannot return if he fails. Sarah reminds him, literally 0 other candidates have ever defeated a massive ogre general before. Still, Gray is super stressed about his busted right arm. Sarah hypes him up, his left arm is totally enough, no dark powers needed. But Gray is sweating it, knowing these brutal exams usually demand everything you have got. Sarah guarantees the examiners will spot his raw talent instantly and pass him. Feeling a bit better, Gray gives her a huge thanks. You and I both know the original timeline was pure tragedy, right? But looking at this surviving village, Gray finally realizes, this world is officially different. A massive wave of hope hits him. His new power can actually rewrite the future. Fired up, he finally hits the road for the exam. Thanks to that top-tier horse, Gray blazes through the trip, hitting the exam city in record time. Finally, he reaches the World Union Academy. A massive castle standing tall. Right as he enters, ticket distribution immediately kicks off. Everyone is ordered to wait in the main arena. Looking at this massive sea of rivals, Gray overhears the crazy rumor, only 20 people are passing today. applicants are whispering that pass rates change constantly. Like, last year 50 whole people made the cut. But one year, just a single person survived the test. Suddenly, the microphone booms, announcing the entrance of Professor Ariel. She starts the ticket distribution. Candidates just pick up their papers, swipe a finger across them, and channel some magic. Gray follows along, touching his paper. Boom, candidate number 513, slotted for the fencing course. But surprisingly, absolutely nothing else is written down. No names. This academy honestly does not care about your age, gender, or how rich your family is. That is why names are totally left off. To the academy elites, your background means absolutely zero. Only those who actually pass and cross the bridge get to reveal their identities. They can even rock a fake name if they want. Because it makes zero difference. Even without his sword here, Gray gets the fencing route. Professor Ariel basically assigns everyone courses strictly based on their looks, telling anyone misplaced to raise a hand. The crowd is totally stunned she just eyeballed them, wondering if they were secretly scouted or if she is using literal mind-reading magic. Seeing no hands, the professor moves right into announcing the schedules. Gray is up at 11 in the morning today, so what do you and I make of this? Fighting day 1 with a busted arm? Trust me, it gets wild. All right, stick with me here. The test is completely practical, and being even a second late means instant disqualification. Gray could not change the schedule, and to make things worse, his right arm was completely busted. He just prayed it would miraculously heal up by tomorrow. Morning comes, and yeah, zero healing. His arm is still dead weight, but our boy decides to take the exam anyway. A staff member tells him to wait at the arena gate since he is up next. His left arm is totally fine, but the right one? Barely moving. Gray uses these last few minutes to study the examiner, desperately trying to spot any weakness in his upcoming opponent. Some absolute tank charges the glasses wearing Swordsman like a raging bull. But the guy smoothly dodges, making the heavy sword smash into the dirt. Not backing down, the brute rips his weapon out of the ground and launches a massive follow-up strike. But the examiner easily blocks it using a much thinner blade. The huge guy is totally stunned that his attack got stuffed, and right in that split second, the examiner shatters the brute's guard with pure strength, delivering a brutal counter that sends the heavy sword flying and drops the big guy. Match over, the defeated guy grabs his weapon and bails. Gray watches all this go down, basically thinking he is doomed. The glasses-wearing examiner calls candidate number 513 to step into the ring. Gray feels totally hopeless having to fight a literal monster who just easily wrecked a giant using only one single arm. Now here is where it gets wild. Watch closely. The examiner lets Gray take the very first swing. He feels totally outmatched, but goes all in anyway. He charges headfirst at the guy. In his head, he replays his master's lesson about never swinging with just raw arm strength. You gotta channel your whole body weight. Even with his right arm basically useless, Gray shifts the explosive power into his other muscles. He throws a super fast strike, but the examiner dodges it easily. Gray can't use his normal style, and swinging without full power is way harder in real combat. As Gray winds up his left arm for another slash, the examiner instantly spots an opening and strikes. But get this, the blade looks super slow to him. Gray predicts the exact path and easily blocks. The guy hits like a truck, sure, but his speed is garbage compared to Gray's master. Trusting those brutal lessons from his master, our boy realizes pure technique can actually make up for his busted arm. Gray fakes a frontal attack and suddenly blitzes him at blinding speed. The examiner is way too slow, and his face screams pure panic. Turns out Gray totally hyped this dude up in his head. He really isn't that impressive. He flashes back to his master promising he would absolutely crush this test. Their blades brutally crash together, and Gray smoothly forces the examiner's arm sky high. Suddenly, winning actually feels like a guaranteed lock. But even reading the guy perfectly, the raw power gap is huge. He just can't shatter that defensive stance. Winning a boss fight one-handed is basically impossible. But then, Gray notices something amazing. The examiner's footwork is getting completely sloppy. Gray sidesteps a heavy swing and starts plotting his finisher. He just stands there, perfectly still, baiting the guy into making a move. The instructor drops a massive overhead strike, totally leaving himself wide open. Gray just slides right past it, spotting the perfect target. That slow, clumsy attack completely exposes the guy's back. At this point, the crazy power difference does not even matter anymore. Slipping behind him, Gray has his ultimate counter completely charged up. But right as he is about to slice the guy's back open, the match abruptly stops. You and I both wanted to see that epic hit land, but nope, the buzzer sounds. The absolute worst timing ever. Because of that, they call it a draw. Gray is totally crushed since he had the win right there. Staring at the ground, he knows he went all out. But without a clear knockout, his chances look awful. He figures he will just have to come back next year with a fully healed arm. Staring up at the Grand Coliseum, he quietly says thanks. Fast forward 1 week, and the World Union Academy big shots are having a meeting. The old guy in charge asks everyone what they think of this year's batch. All the judges agree that watching the exams together was a super efficient setup. Another judge chips in, saying they can't just skip over hidden gems to save time. But the old man shuts it down. He wants to talk about students, not the rules. Exactly. They kick things off with the sword fighters, pulling up the list of who actually passed. Anyone who beat an examiner got an instant yes. The rest got judged purely on skill. Aside from the heavy hitters, 3 other kids really popped off. They figure admitting weaker students is useless because they would just wash out of the crazy classes anyway. So, they decide to only take the absolute best, and nobody argues. The sword roster gets officially locked in, until one judge suddenly brings up candidate number 513. The red-haired Professor Ariel questions his score. The other judges pull up Gray's fight footage and just smirk. They all thought the kid was gonna win, but relying on cheap traps to corner, the examiner makes them seriously question his spot in the academy. Plus, they argue that his technique is solid, but his physical power is a joke. They think he was completely outmatched for the entire fight. So, candidate 513 gets completely trashed. But Ariel is fuming, realizing these so-called experts totally missed a massive hidden detail in his fighting style. Next morning, everyone crowds around the massive clock tower. Gray clutches his application sheet, sweating bullets while waiting for the final results. And right then, the giant screen flashes the official sword student passing list. Only 6 kids made the cut. They rattle off 5 names back to back, no Gray. Then the final 6th spot gets called, and yep, he is officially rejected. The lucky 6 get to cross that bridge and officially enroll. But trust me, you will want to see Gray's next move. Alright, you and I are about to watch something wild. Unapproved applications burst into flames. Our main character, convinced he failed out until... Boom, the Divine Eye special admission drops, and candidate 513, Gray, gets the green light. His form lights up in sick blue flames. Divine Eye admission? Yeah, our boy had literally never heard of it. Meanwhile, some regular folks started trash-talking the World Union Academy's standards. Claiming they let sketchy people in, Gray had 0 connections. So he figured his master pulled strings. An old guy snapped at the haters, defending the special entry. Turns out, Divine Eye is an elite tier that's pumped out heroes for a century. Recent heavy hitters include Amy White, Bella Albright, and Leek Mueller, plus the future legend Jacob Bloomfield. Still, the snobby candidates around them thought these swordsmen were total flops. Our main character recognized them instantly. Those 3 formed the main hit squad against the Liquidator, and in this new timeline, his name was gonna be alongside theirs. With the entrance ceremony kicking off in 30 minutes, they were told to suit up and group together out in the main square. Looking fresh in the academy uniform, our boy hits the square. But looking around, everyone is confused. Was this the right spot? Right on cue, some guy announces a tiny holdup. Apparently, someone goofed up the prep work. He tells everyone to step back, setting up some stairs. Then, he channels serious magic straight into the ground. Watch closely, this gets crazy. The ground shatters, blinding light erupting everywhere. The insane magical output leaves the students completely speechless. The main building literally rises from the dirt. The instructors then casually tell everyone to grab a seat. Everyone realizes teleportation magic moved the building. Our main character figured they just wanted to hold the ceremony with a sick view of the school. Seeing this god-tier flex, he realizes the true power of the World Union Academy. Moving a whole building? Insane. Suddenly, 600 applicants for 30 spots made sense. A guy nearby admits he only ever studied the blade. Yeah, his friend definitely questioned his brains. She chimes in, explaining that this academy literally gathers the absolute best from across the globe. Right on cue, elite students from everywhere start dropping in, riding hot air balloons and literal dragons. Then, the Strat Queen airship rolls up. Our guy actually rode it back in his liquidator hunting days. It's one of the biggest airships on the planet, totally busted out just to flex for today's ceremony. Talk about an absurd power move by the academy. Tons of transfer students touch down right then. Glasses guy officially kicks off the ceremony. Everybody claps for the director's speech, which honestly drags on forever. Even here, the ceremony is basically normal, and our guy is fighting off sleep. After the top students' greetings, the real show starts. The director calls up Leonhard, the absolute beast of the swordsmanship track. Whispers instantly erupt in the crowd. This guy literally trashed the examiner during the entrance test. Word is, he's basically professor level with a blade. The name? Leonhard appease. He asks if he can speak his mind, getting the green light from the staff. So, he drops a huge statement. Leonhard looks at his peers, saying that even though some got in through weird backdoors, it's still an honor to share the stage. If they want to actually change the world, teamwork is non-negotiable. He hypes everyone up for their prestigious future, aiming for absolute greatness. But then, I know what you're thinking, peace never lasts. Leonhard declares someone here doesn't belong, totally calling out Professor Ariel's divine eye, which just admitted our main character. Ariel claps back, reminding everyone they all passed a hardcore exam. She adds that despite his beef, isolating students is a terrible look. Leonhard fires back, clarifying he isn't talking about the regular test takers at all. He's targeting the guy Ariel basically smuggled into the academy. Yep, the divine eye special admission. Leonhard demands this mystery student out themselves, drop the uniform, and pack their bags immediately. Our boy is completely baffled by the pure hate. Thank God Leonhard doesn't know his face, so he wisely keeps his mouth shut. Ariel chuckles, calling the freshman energetic. But Leonhard is dead serious, demanding an end to shady admissions. Ariel steps right up, dropping a cold threat. He's absolutely not stronger than our main character. Her sinister vibe completely stuns Leonhard. But honestly, she loves his spicy attitude. So she proposes a massive bet, wagering her entire career and our boy's enrollment. Leonhard asks if she wants a one-on-one duel with the special student. Ariel shuts that down instantly. Because if our main character goes all out, Leonhard might literally die. And hey, as a teacher, she can't casually risk her students' lives. Leonhard is visibly ticking off at her words. But she's totally serious, shifting the challenge to monster hunting instead. She knows he's way better at slaying beasts than people anyway. The rules? Just take down one specific target monster she picks out. They'll face stronger monsters each round. Slowest time loses. If our special admission kid takes the L, Ariel gets fired. If Leonhard loses, he's her servant. That's where we leave it. Trust me, you're gonna want to see this showdown. All right, stick with me. Leonhard asked for the exact test monsters. Even feeling confident, he knew the risks. So, Ariel cooked up a totally different proposal. Her first target, an ogre general. Hearing that, Leonhard was absolutely furious. He slammed the table, shouting that nobody could solo that monster. Professor Ariel casually explained she expected him to beat it. But she offered a full 1-year extension. Leonhard snapped back, saying if 1 year was enough, humanity wouldn't be suffering. He demanded a different monster for the test, standing his ground. Seriously, if a beast like that fell after just 1 year of prep, humanity wouldn't have any issues. but Professor Ariel just dropped another condition. In a tie, Leonhardt wins. If our hero fails to crush the ogre general, she gets fired and the special student gets fully expelled. Leonhardt called it absolute madness, but Ariel knew he was out of options, so he ultimately accepted the crazy bet. Still, Leonhardt insisted the ogre general couldn't be the final boss, claiming he'd signed the contract without breaking a sweat. Right then. He grabbed the pen, signing the magic contract instantly. He questioned the professor, doubting this kid could actually win. The class thought Ariel betting her career on some boy was crazy. Some whispered she was totally past her prime. Too weak and stuck at the academy forever. Meanwhile, our boy was not thrilled. He figured she set that one-year ogre deadline specifically because of him. He guessed she'd been watching him way before enrollment. Shocked, he realized her crazy demands. Now watch closely here, his professor was playing totally dirty. Soon after, their basic magic fundamentals class kicked off. The teacher figured they'd be shocked by a day one lecture, but he made it clear, 0 days get wasted in this academy. Starting with basic magic. He explained that a hidden energy called ether flows inside everyone. Move that ether through your magic circuits, and boom, magic happens. He actually worried lecturing might be pointless if these rich kids had already mastered the absolute basics. With the boring theory out of the way, Gray realized his huge problem. He was stuck in the same class as Leonhardt. He prayed Leon wouldn't discover he was the special divine eye student. Suddenly, the teacher called Gray out for losing focus. Gray quickly apologized. He was totally shocked the guy noticed him so fast, considering he was hiding way back in the last row. The teacher smirked. If everyone felt so confident, they should show off their power. He bet they already had basic magic down. Even though this was the sword course, the guy knew it was fine if they weren't casting spells every single day. Still, he made it super clear. Even swordsmen need basic magic knowledge just to team up properly with real mages. Gray realized this whole lecture matched his old training camp perfectly. He figured the practice spells would be the exact same ones he already knew. He wondered if they'd just shoot ether projectiles. The teacher noticed Gray nodding and asked if he could cast spells. Gray confirmed it, saying he learned it at camp. Loving this, the teacher turned the demo into a duel. Since Leonhardt also knew ether projectiles, the teacher hyped it up and proposed these two face off. Leon bragged he'd been magically trained before the academy. The professor then explained that even with a clear power gap, a basic ether shot wouldn't be lethal. Then he dropped the bomb. Gray was this year's legendary divine eye student. Instantly, every eye locked onto Gray. He was absolutely annoyed the teacher just exposed his massive secret. You and I know this gets messy. Gray stood up, while Leon planned to show them true academy ruthlessness. The teacher called Gray down to the front. On his signal, these two were gonna blast ether projectiles right at each other. Gray was sweating it. He only practiced this for a few days in real combat. He genuinely feared getting blasted to pieces. The teacher yelled go. Leonhardt whipped up his magic, fully aiming to prove the massive power gap between them. Gray fired his ether back. Both spells launched together, the two magic spheres totally colliding midair. But boom, Gray's sphere completely crushed his rivals. It shot right toward a visibly panicked Leon. The teacher jumped in, throwing up a shield. But get this, the shield actually shattered, triggering a massive explosion. The shockwave hit everyone, leaving Leon completely stunned. The teacher rushed over, desperately checking if the kid was hurt. Leon was fine, but the teacher knew that shot was lethal without the barrier. The class freaked out. How did Gray do that? Gray honestly thought his spell was weak. He wondered if squad magic was just built different, asking the stunned room if they all did it like that too. Shaking, the teacher explained Gray's magic quality was on another level. He warned everyone that wasn't normal ether, it was super compressed ether. Super compressed what? Nobody had a clue. Even full-time professors struggled to pull that off, and our boy Gray just nailed it flawlessly. The teacher admitted it was the craziest, most powerful basic shot he'd ever seen. Literally, nobody else in this academy could replicate that. Makes you think, right? The class agreed the divine eye hype was real. but Gray felt super confused. He muttered that all squad spells worked like that. He seriously thought they were just mocking him, believing anybody could do this with enough practice. Classic anime logic, right? Stick with me here. The professor actually laughs, begging Gray to join the magic course with a VIP recommendation. But get this, Gray shuts the offer down cold. The professor is mind blown because our guy just pulled off super compressed ether flawlessly, and he is way too young for that kind of power. He straight up calls Gray a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy, even for this elite school. Whoever said this kid had zero talent? Yeah, they were totally clueless. The whole class is sitting there stunned. This teacher never hands out compliments, so hyping up one student like this is wild. He even claims it'd be an absolute crime against the magical world if Gray didn't study it. Meanwhile, Gray is just having a flashback about this exact ether compression technique. Way back in the ancient days, nobody actually understood that compressed ether is literally just pure life force. His old mentor had explained the brutal truth. Casting real magic is insanely hard because you have to compress that energy deep inside your body before blasting it out. And down the line. People are gonna trash this method, calling it weak and totally useless. So, Gray casually asks the professor if he knows anything about OD. Seeing the old man's blank face, Gray instantly gets it. This current era has zero clue what OD even is. Everything he picked up back in his subjugation squad days is straight-up future intel. He realizes he's gotta be super careful about dropping these future secrets. So, Gray just plays the sword fanatic card, declaring his undying love for blades, and completely rejects the magic class. Totally respecting the hustle, the professor just tells him the door is always open if he ever wants to switch sides. Heading back to the podium, the teacher announces he won't even yell at Gray for zoning out anymore. Basically, this class is way too easy for him, so he's got a free pass to ditch whenever. The rest of the students are absolutely losing their minds. Even Leon Hart completely flips his entire attitude toward our guy. Fast forward, and Professor Ariel drops a letter pulling Gray into her office after the bell. He figures this whole meeting is just because of a complaint from his fencing teacher, Professor Carlos, expecting Ariel to lecture him about switching majors. But the second he walks right through that door. Now watch this closely, things are about to get crazy. Someone instantly lunges at him with a blade, but Gray easily blocks it, his body acting on pure instinct against this blue-haired attacker. He squints, realizing she actually looks super familiar. Right then, Ariel casually chimes in, confirming her wild theory about Gray was totally spot on. She notes that Bella went all out, yet Gray's defensive moves were absolutely flawless. He finally recognizes his attacker, it's Bella Albright, the famous sorceress. Ariel then roasts the other professors hiding in the room, telling them to quit since they couldn't even tell if Bella was holding back. Defeated, the other teachers step out and hand over their cash. Turns out, they were literally gambling on whether Gray could block that ambush. Taking her winnings, she actually tosses a gold coin over to Gray. But the teachers notice something huge. Gray didn't even use his main arm to block, he was totally favoring it, like he's hiding a serious injury. They realize that wound is way worse than it looks. Gray is honestly shaken that these teachers figured out his whole situation from one single block. Ariel just smirks, saying if they couldn't catch tiny details like that, they'd have zero business teaching at the elite World Union Academy. She drops another bomb. She's known about his busted arm since the entrance exams. That's exactly why she set up the bet before kicking them out. On their way out, the teachers warn him. Sure, he's got insane potential, but if that arm doesn't heal, he's getting expelled. The second the door clicks shut, Ariel pivots straight to magic. Word travels fast, and she already knows about his crazy ether stunt in class. Carlos had actually barged into her office demanding Gray be moved to the magic track. But Ariel shot him down, totally convinced our boy is a born swordsman, not a mage. She knows there's way more to his ether trick. Realizing this woman basically has X-ray vision for secrets, Gray decides playing dumb is a terrible idea. She demands to know his exact method, swearing she'll keep it quiet and even throw in a reward. The catch, She's only asking to help out Bella Albright. Gray almost blurts out her future title as a sorceress, which would have been a massive red flag. Ariel sighs, explaining Bella is a genius at theory, but terrible practically. For whatever reason, she just can't compress ether right. Gray had heard rumors about her struggling with this, and suddenly all the puzzle pieces are clicking. See, Gray totally cheats the system. There's actually a secret loophole to firing off super compressed ether without doing the heavy lifting of compressing it yourself. We both felt that tension, right? If Bella learns this, she avoids Professor Bradley. Hearing that name, Gray absolutely freezes in pure shock. Everyone knows that guy, because Bradley is a straight-up monster in the magic community. We're talking sick, twisted human experiments that ended in multiple bodies dropping. Fast forward a bit, and this psycho causes insane magical disasters that wipe out thousands of innocent people. He's basically history's worst magical supervillain, and he's still walking free. Ariel drops the heavy news. If Bella fails this class by year's end, she's getting shipped to Bradley for a sketchy surgery. Gray's stomach drops at this insane idea. They claim the surgery boosts magic, but in reality, it's just a dark front for human testing. Even though the public is totally clueless, Ariel already suspects Bradley is catching bodies. Bella is absolutely terrified of being his next lab rat. But it's a lose-lose situation. If she can't master this ether trick, she's getting expelled anyway. Frankly, Professor Ariel would much rather see Bella kicked out than sliced open and ruined by that maniac. This terrifying truth about Bradley wasn't common knowledge yet, and because of that, Gray sweats. Changing the timeline with future secrets is super risky. He flashes back to humanity, getting wiped out by the Liquidator. But honestly, he'd rather wreck the timeline than let that nightmare future happen again. Making his choice, he agrees to teach Bella the super-compressed ether cheat code. The squad heads straight to the arena, where Gray drops his magic masterclass. They even lock it in with a magical NDA, so his secret technique stays completely under wraps. After the lesson, Gray asks for their review. Ariel is completely blown away by his advanced knowledge. Trust me, you're going to want to see what this kid does next. Bella is equally amazed, finding his short, epic explanation absolutely perfectly organized. Let's jump into this. You and I are watching Gray completely mind blow these mages. To her, his lecture just fast-forwarded magic history by a whole century. But get this, he actually stole this info from a lecture Bella Albright gives 10 years in the future. Obviously, he keeps that little secret totally quiet. Professor Ariel honestly could not even process all this crazy new info to see if it was legit. But Bella Albright, she was totally buying it. Why? Because absolutely nothing he said contradicted their current magic rules. Plus, the fastest way to prove it was just testing it out live. If Gray was right, this spell would be flawless. So, Bella taps into her current power level right there. Channeling magic through her staff, Gray remembered the rumors. Bella at full strength could literally burn down an entire city. And worse, everyone knew her magic control was absolute garbage. She casts the spell, a crazy intense glow flashes, and boom, a massive explosion hits so hard it actually makes Gray scream. He is caught right in the blast zone, trapped inside Bella's gigantic fire tower. The raw power. Absolutely insane. If Bella had not reined it in, Gray was totally cooked. The flames crawled up his arm but suddenly stopped. She saved him. Bella is just thrilled she finally controlled her ether exactly like Gray taught her. Then, a massive fire dragon bursts from her staff, making her laugh out loud. But yeah, her ether tank hits zero instantly, and she drops to the floor completely out cold. Ariel points out she fainted from magic exhaustion. Ariel is completely blown away that Bella pulled off magic that heavy so fast, even while passed out. Bella mutters that Gray's super compressed ether theory is the real star here. But the funniest part, that theory actually belongs to future Bella. Now pay close attention, because here is where it gets crazy. Ariel announces that mastering this ether trick means Bella can finally skip that super sketchy surgery. Ariel is so relieved they dodged Bradley's crazy operation while keeping Bella's magic under control. See, That surgery basically forces a massive power-up, but completely nukes the user's control. Nobody knows exactly how it works, but it basically shatters a person's natural limits like glass. That operation is exactly why ancient sorceresses always lost control of their wild power. Anyway, thanks to Gray, Bella hit her super compressed ether goal and nailed her end of the deal. So now, Ariel has to step up and pay her dues. That means using her high-level magic to heal Gray's totally wrecked arm. She chants a spell, and glowing butterflies swarm his arm. Seconds later, Gray's right arm is back in business, moving flawlessly. Gray is hyped, thanking her since even top-tier potions failed him completely. Ariel just scoffs, telling him not to insult her elite nerve magic. She tells him to swing his blade to test the mobility. Gray draws his sword, and the movement looks completely normal. He busts out some lightning-fast swings, but admits it feels slightly off. Why? Because fixing nerves does not fix the massive damage on Gray's actual soul. Ariel mentions that current magic science does not even believe souls are real. But honestly, she totally does. Because her secret eye literally lets her see them. She notices his soul is healing up naturally, as long as he does not go totally overboard. Gray thinks about skipping practice, but Ariel tells him to train like normal. She is super curious about what kind of insane sword style could literally damage a soul. She knows a style using souls to move swords. She then asks Gray if he knows the girl Amy White. This is the future sword saint, who is totally unknown right now. Ariel guesses Gray learned his crazy moves straight from Amy herself. But here is the catch. Gray's mentor is actually slightly better than current Amy. He knows future Amy eventually reaches that exact same insane god-tier level. Gray lies, claiming he learned his moves at some random hometown dojo. Then he totally pivots, asking if a sword style can really damage a soul like that. Ariel shoots that down. No way normal swordsmanship does that kind of damage. You feel that tension, right? She asks if he used his hidden inner power. Gray realizes her glowing eye sees everything. She literally sees his aura leaking straight through that chain door. Gray suddenly remembers the exact door she means. He knows she isn't guessing. She genuinely saw it. Ariel drops a bombshell, revealing she's seen an aura like his before. Gray asks if there are other mages with this crazy power. She nods, but admits she isn't even sure if they are human. She calls them the Liquidators. Seeing Gray completely freeze, Ariel knows he has heard that name. Gray is terrified. That name shouldn't exist yet. Ariel is super surprised he knows about the Liquidators already, but then remembers he literally brought all this crazy knowledge from the future. Gray knows nobody in this era should know this stuff yet. Ariel leans in, asking exactly how much he knows about them. He straight up says the Liquidators are an apocalyptic threat to humanity. They have to be stopped from manifesting and completely destroyed, no matter what. Ariel totally agrees, dropping heavy news. Bradley is pushing hard to continue his experiments. Gray asks about Bradley's connection to the Liquidator. She reveals the Liquidator is the exact monster Bradley is trying to summon. Gray is stunned. He never knew humans actually created the Liquidator. In his original timeline, the Academy just casually acted like they knew exactly where it would spawn. It all clicks. The Academy was involved in summoning it the entire time. He wants this stopped immediately. Ariel sighs. Since the guy running the project is a professor at her exact same rank, she literally does not have the authority to pull the plug. Gray asks which superiors she tried warning. But trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. She straight up refuses. She can't leak who her superiors are without top-level clearance, and absolutely nobody has the power to just forcibly stop this crazy experiment. All right, stick with me. We are diving into some serious Academy drama. Gray realizes the big bosses are totally unreachable, but catching a literal criminal should change everything. Back in his past life, this psycho professor's sketchy experiments killed dozens of innocent women. And get this, Gray knows exactly where those fatal horrors went down. He knows Bradley's exact secret lab location and tells Ariel they need to catch him red-handed. But wait. Professor Ariel completely shuts it down. Breaking into a lab is a massive crime. Without hard, concrete proof, both of them would just end up in handcuffs. She asks if he actually has proof. If not, they have to table the idea immediately. Even knowing Bradley is super dangerous, their hands are just totally tied. Then Ariel pivots to Gray's crazy power, asking if he actually wants to control it. She name-drops an academy teacher who is an absolute legend at handling totally unknown forces. Enter Heathcote Longfellow. Gray instantly recognizes the name. This dude literally trained the actual sword saint herself. Ariel hooks him up with private lessons starting tomorrow. Mastering this wild power is exactly why Gray enrolled here in the first place, so he sincerely thanks her. He honestly didn't expect to score a massive power-up lead this fast, bright and early the very next day. He meets his master and immediately starts doing laps. Gray is super confused. Why cardio instead of cool magic? Longfellow completely notices his student spacing out mid-run through the woods. The master yells at him to speed up. Stop overthinking and just sprint until his physical body hits its absolute breaking point. Burning every single drop of sweat is the only way his soul will finally awaken. Longfellow warns that while Gray still has any juice left at all, they aren't touching a single blade. Gray figures this intense cardio has a purpose, but mid-sprint, his mind drifts straight back to those twisted experiments Bradley is running. Should he really be jogging while a psycho runs loose? Fast forward a whole week, Ariel checks in to see how his epic training with Longfellow is actually going. Gray admits they mostly just ran, adding a tiny bit of swordplay at the end. But the crazy thing, when he mentions feeling way stronger, Ariel laughs, saying that is classic Longfellow style. Suddenly, her butler barges in, interrupting the chat to hand over a mysterious sealed letter to the professor. Now pay close attention, this is where things get wild. Ariel reads the letter and her face drops. The report claims Bella Albright is making super compressed ether. Turns out, Bella's new power looked super similar, but later tests completely proved she wasn't actually compressing the energy at all. Major bummer. So her new skill can't be officially recognized. But the creepiest part? Bailey and Bradley's letter boldly stated the contract stays valid and the shady operation proceeds as planned. Gray thinks this letter is absolute, unhinged madness. Meanwhile, Professor Ariel realizes the insane doc is fully determined to force Bella into that terrible surgery. Worse, the contract is completely loophole-proof, making it literally impossible for her to back out. The only way to fix this mess: Bradley cancels it himself, Bella gets officially expelled, or the entire operation gets forcefully shut down. Ariel instantly asks for Gray's help on this rescue mission. She demands he drop the exact location of that hidden lab so they can finally expose this criminal to the world. Gray just scoffs, tossing her own exact words right back. Wasn't she the one terrified of going without hard proof? But Ariel places all her faith in him, fully ready to hunt down that evidence herself. Honestly, she practically made that choice the very second she decided to trust him. After all, her awesome divine eye had already confirmed that Gray wasn't bluffing. He's been telling the complete truth all along. She tells Gray to lead the way, ready to drag these crimes into the daylight. Gray points out that the secret lab is hiding right near Torowell Village. Ariel suddenly remembers the Academy actually authorized a legit lab on Torowell Mountain. Gray immediately pieces it together. This psycho is running highly illegal experiments inside a perfectly legal, authorized facility. Ariel realizes it's absolutely genius. What better hiding spot could there possibly be? Nobody would ever suspect a thing since he basically lived there anyway. Plus, to make things even more completely perfect, Academy professors absolutely never poke around in each other's labs. Ariel figures as long as they can snatch solid proof of these crimes. I know what you're thinking. This is some absolutely insane timing, right? Bella Albright suddenly knocks and bursts into the room, dropping the massive bomb that she got a creepy letter to. Ariel gently snatches the paper right out of her hands, promising she will personally handle this entire mess for her student. Bella Albright panics, asking if her teacher is really going to confront that psycho just for her. Ariel coolly replies she's more than strong enough to handle it alone. Gray immediately steps in, insisting he's tagging along since this is basically his mission anyway. And obviously, Bella refuses to just stay behind. Ariel gets super worried, terrified this human experimenting maniac might actually capture one of her students. Honestly, nobody knows exactly what kinds of twisted things he's truly capable of. Gray argues that's exactly why she can't just fly solo. He confidently reminds her he can unleash the same epic power that wrecked General Agro, making him a solid backup. On top of that, Bella, flexing her special student status, begs Ariel to let them take total control of their own destinies. Ariel quickly realizes there's zero chance of stopping them. These two are hunting the doc down no matter what. So, giving in. She agrees but slaps down one massive rule. No matter how crazy things get, their own survival comes first. Both students eagerly nod. Boom, they hit the mountains and track down the hidden lab. Bella is completely mind-blown that this guy is actually running sick, illegal experiments all the way out here. Ariel doesn't doubt it for a single second, declaring it's time to hunt for evidence right now. Gray is totally locked in. This is definitely the spot. Trusting her squad, Bella nervously asks if they can actually grab the evidence without triggering a total disaster. Ariel notes the creep is away at a magic conference. But trust me, you and I aren't ready for this. The front door is probably loaded with deadly traps. Let's dive right into the madness. Breaking into an academy-authorized lab is totally illegal, but right now, it is an absolute necessity. Professor Ariel tells Bella to back out if she is scared, but Bella Albright stays totally locked into the mission. Ariel reminds Bella Albright this is not just about her. And Gray backs her up, saying that stopping these twisted experiments is honestly for the greater good of the entire freaking world. If they don't act, countless lives get sacrificed. Ariel thinks that is slightly dramatic, but totally agrees these wild experiments must be stopped immediately. They are not just risking it all for Bella Albright. Moving fast, they start blasting spells straight at Bailey and Bradley's lab. Boom, they blow up the lab doors to wreck the traps. Busting through the wall, they are met with an absolutely shocking scene. People are locked in cages, literally starving. Ariel says they will not even need to try hard to find proof of Bailey and Bradley's crimes. One quick look reveals 14 forbidden spells. Honestly, that alone is a massive, serious crime right there. Plus, illegal human experiments are a huge offense. Dead center is a creepy altar loaded with candles and a giant magic symbol. The squad plans to grab evidence and run, debating whether to save the prisoners right away. Gray says to hurry, but watch closely. Right on cue, Bailey and Bradley completely blindside them, stepping right out of the shadows. Ariel demands to know about the conference. Bailey and Bradley casually reply that a double was sent instead. They had a super important experiment to run right here. He mentions scoring fresh materials for his test, planning to use them up while they are still totally fresh. Seeing 3 intruders in his hidden lab changes everything. He already wanted subjects with way more magical potential than just normal folks. He is clueless on how they found out, but is totally sure nobody else knows they are here. If the trio vanished, nobody would suspect Bailey and Bradley. He plans to use them as lab rats, sacrificing them to push magic's absolute limits. Since they cannot leave alive, they will be used. Suddenly, a massive spell is blasted right at him. Bella Albright blasts an explosive spell from her staff. Bailey and Bradley blocks it, calling the attack magnificent. He says Ariel's divine eye remains sharp, assuming the special admission student has seriously wild talent. He wants to watch these divine eye rookies closely. The trick was weak, but a student trying to assassinate her own professor? Color him impressed. Her chance is totally blown, and honestly, running beats getting wiped out. Ariel screams for a full retreat. They grabbed the evidence, so the academy can handle it. But Bailey and Bradley summons dark magic, absolutely refusing to let them escape alive. He blasts dark magic, but Ariel raises a barrier. Bella Albright thanks her, thinking that attack was a direct hit. You saw that coming, right? Wrong. Bailey and Bradley says his devouring flame actually eats defensive magic, using it as fuel to grow even more insanely powerful. Though needing rare materials, it is basically invincible. Professor Ariel tries defending, but it is incredibly complex. Her barrier cracks as devouring flames push inside. Ariel tells Bella Albright to take the spell memory bag to Gray. Heathcote will know what to do. Right as the barrier fails, Bella Albright adds defensive magic. Professor Ariel tells Bella to stop helping and run. Seeing the shield break, Bella confidently says to leave the rest to her. Ariel remembers their promise to prioritize survival. She warns that Bailey and Bradley's magic is totally abnormal, so regular defensive spells simply will not work. Suddenly, Ariel's shield shatters completely, and she yells that she will buy them some time. Bella Albright drops another defensive spell, calmly saying everything is under control. She just needed a totally different magic type for his specific attack. It isn't that strong, but the anti-magic theory for this flame is a strict secret. Bella Albright smirks, revealing someone recently taught her a brand new theory. Bailey and Bradley is absolutely furious. Overcome with intense hatred, he screams, demanding the name of the traitor who taught her this anti-magic spell. He promises a quick end if she snitches. Bella Albright just smiles. It is a secret. She does tease that the traitor is a fencing student, thinking back to the protagonist's genius lessons. Honestly, our boy set up practically all of these flawless counters. Realizing she is totally messing with him, Bailey and Bradley grabs a crystal, swearing he will burn them all alive. The second that crystal shatters, screaming tormented souls rush the heroes. These ghosts want to devour them whole and morph right into living flames. They fuse into one gigantic, terrifying black flame. Gray checks on Bella Albright, and she confidently shouts that the barrier is gonna hold. Her mana is dangerously low. Bella tells Gray to attack Bailey and Bradley while she stays busy maintaining the defense. Professor Ariel activates her divine eye. Spotting a weak point in the flames, she decides to project her magic straight outside the barrier. Pushing her mana past Bella Albright's shield, she blasts powerful, crackling electric bolts straight at Bailey and Bradley's weak spot. Bailey and Bradley spots Ariel's wild counterattack, but sadly, those electric bolts cannot even reach him. Gray remembers Ariel actually has the weakest offensive magic on staff. Because of his flame's insane properties, Bailey and Bradley was literally just absorbing her spells. Running on empty, Bella Albright physically staggers. This is exactly why Professor Ariel and her divine eye had begged them all to run away earlier. So what do you and I make of this? Gray says fighting beats dying anytime. He pushed for this showdown and totally refuses to blame Ariel. Stick with me on this one. Ariel warned him against using that power yet, since the damage could be permanent. Our boy swallowed hard and nodded. Bella Albright felt absolutely zero ether and asked if what they just saw was magic. She knew calling power of that insane magnitude mere magic was basically impossible. Ariel politely told Bella to stop digging and keep her mouth completely shut about this. Professor Ariel flat out threatened to wipe Bella's memories completely if she refused to promise. Bella quickly agreed, asking if they needed another magical contract. Professor Ariel gave the green light, and boom, the contract materialized right there. Signatures down. Our main guy, totally worried about those messed up experiments, wanted to help out. He realized the victims were just magically knocked out cold. Even without immediate danger, these poor test subjects needed the Academy's medical wing right away. So Ariel whipped up these glowing magic cocoons to keep them totally safe. Problem solved. They decided to dig deeper into this shady mountain lab. From the looks of it, these illegal experiments were totally running on human sacrifices. The sacrifices fueled magical catalysts or boosted human stats. Ariel found zero traces of the liquidator here, guessing it was stashed somewhere else. Gray felt something was super off, considering this spot claimed tens of thousands of lives before. How could just making magical catalysts trigger such a massive disaster? Then it hit Gray. What wiped out everyone in his past world was the toxic miasma violently erupting from deep underground. He just froze in pure dread, and both girls definitely noticed. Our guy knew for a fact there was something hiding beneath this lab. He told them about potential underground hidden passages. They found Zip, but Ariel's divine eye actually caught onto something super weird. Ariel fired up her ocular skill, spotting traces of short-distance teleportation magic. She realized it was a hidden zone roughly 300 meters down, only accessible by warping. Gray asked if they could go, and Ariel confidently prepped her own portal. Ariel activated a short-distance teleportation circle. She warned that if the portal's other side was completely empty. Now pay attention here. The portal opened, revealing some absolutely wild, strange structures. Nobody expected a space this incredibly massive under the facility. Ariel felt crazy amounts of ether from everywhere, before finally spotting a giant structure dead center. It wasn't just leaking ether, but an energy totally different from magic. It was the absolute strongest power Ariel had ever witnessed. Our MC instantly realized this was the Liquidator's power. They slowly approached the massive central structure. Stepping inside, they found a door marked with a super weird symbol. A candlelit pentagram surrounded it, radiating crazy levels of power. But get this, no signs of the Liquidator anywhere. Professor Ariel just casually knocked. Bella panicked about tampering, but Ariel told her to chill out. Ariel shoved the door open, explaining it actually held zero power. It was just a symbolic prop for some ritual that wasn't even active yet. She clarified the real juice was in the magic circles around it, not the door. But suddenly, one of those circles started sparking like crazy. I know what you're thinking, the whole circle lit up fast. Gray was totally shook, asking if Ariel was actually trying to summon the Liquidator. Bella felt the crazy shockwave, yelling that the magic was way too dangerous. Ariel said relax, predicting this setup definitely couldn't summon the actual Liquidator. But then space literally started tearing open around the door, throwing them into pure panic, until everything just randomly broke down and completely shut off. Ariel explained these devices were never built to summon the Liquidator. They just needed to rip open a tiny little rift. This pulls power straight from the Liquidator's domain. The core crystallizing this energy is likely made from sacrificed human lives. Ariel noted around 10 souls got burned up already, since the molding process demands sacrifices. She figured those folks upstairs were basically grabbed as raw materials for this twisted ritual. Bella couldn't grasp why they went to such insane lengths for power, or what their actual endgame was. Ariel explained. That crazy black flame variant from the fight and its power crystal. They're basically just the blueprint for how these flames will look once fully cooked. But this conduit won't just stop at flames. If they actually mass-produce this stuff, who knows what kind of absolute chaos they'll unleash next. The spatial rifts slowly faded. Our hunter asked if Bradley actually wasn't trying to summon the Liquidator. Ariel honestly had no idea. But guessed he failed because the spatial portal circles totally maxed out. She figured this setup was the absolute best they could manage here. Bella realized this tech was insanely valuable, having never seen space folding magic this strong. Ariel agreed, building just one of these machines would literally bankrupt an entire nation. With 8 of these machines here, Ariel figured some ridiculously powerful organization had to be secretly funding this. Bella immediately suspected the mighty Discar Empire, but Ariel shut that down. Even as the biggest country globally. The Empire lacks the magical research to forge this crystal. Ariel suspected an organization whose magical research completely surpasses even the Empire's level. The hunter suggested the World Union Academy, and Ariel totally agreed. No other research institution could possibly sustain such a massive scale and budget. Bella was absolutely floored hearing the Academy might be behind this. The World Union Academy is supposed to defend against global threats, not literally create them. Ariel totally got Bella's denial, but insisted no other group had this capability. The hunter argued this didn't mean the whole Academy was suddenly their enemy, adding that the majority of them were probably still the good guys. Remember, before the universe got redefined. So what do you and I make of this? Even those elite subjugation squads fought tooth and nail protecting innocent civilians until the very end. All right, stick with me here. After seeing that twisted future, the hunter just can't believe the Academy is humanity's enemy. Ariel jumps in. Most folks there are good and wouldn't allow these deadly experiments. But get this, the Academy hides a ton of researchers and secret facilities. Nobody completely knows how deep it goes. Whoever backed Vian, major heavyweights. There is no way Bradley pulled this off using just his own authority. Bella Albright asks if the Academy is totally untrustworthy. Ariel nods, saying she has been observing it from the inside for decades. She is completely certain, do not trust them. Sure, most folks inside genuinely believe they are saving the world. Even the guys running these sick experiments probably think it's for the greater good. But the real truth, buried deep in the shadows. The hunter asks how to track down the big boss, but Ariel looks around. Zero communication devices left at the scene. Not even a speck of residual magic from the circle's creator. A totally clean getaway. But suddenly, boom, everything starts exploding, scaring the life out of the group. Ariel realizes it's a trap. They rigged the place to blow the second Bradley bylaid. Classic villain move. Lure the investigators inside, then blow the whole place sky high. But wait. Now watch this part. Bella Albright is panicking, screaming to run as everything collapses. But Ariel just tells them to chill out. These are only magical explosives, and Academy professors are definitely not that weak. She throws up a massive defensive spell, claiming she is absolutely not dying today. She orders everyone to stay inside the magic circle while she holds the line. The whole structure comes crashing down, but her magic circle holds strong. Finally, in a flash, they are teleported safely out of there, hostages included. All the captured victims make it out unharmed. Bella Albright and the hunter, yeah, they totally thought they were completely done for this time. Carrying all that weight made the teleportation super slow, but Ariel pulled it off like a boss. She knows once the Academy sees this mess, they can't sweep it under the rug. The very next day, Ariel meets the Academy Board of Directors to explain exactly what happened. Their response, the survivors are chilling in the medical wing. The director actually thanks them for shutting down Varian Bradley and his wild illegal experiments. Orden Alexandro brings up Bradley's magical machines. Get this, he says a single one of those costs more than an entire country's budget. Plus, there were 8 total. No way Varian bought those on his own dime. Alexandro drops a bomb, they are straight-up stolen goods. Intercepted right in the middle of transport, leaving 78 agents eliminated. Ariel and the crew are absolutely shook to realize this massive crime wave is connected to them. Ariel honestly wouldn't be shocked if the culprits were hiding right inside the Academy. The worst part, there is zero way to track them. The whole crew is totally furious. The criminals won't face punishment even inside the Academy walls. Ariel snaps, arguing that regardless of their insane talent or rich lineage, normal rookies have zero chance to level up in this broken system. Director Alexandro just shrugs. Criminal or not, if you have talent, the Academy trains you. I know exactly what you're thinking. That is completely insane, right? Bella demands punishment. But Alexandro just sighs, saying the high-ups completely disagree. He drops a harsh truth on Bella. He might be a director, but he is just a corporate puppet. Sure, he is the public face, but his actual power? Basically zero. He adds that getting stronger is the only way to discover who actually controls the whole Academy. Prove your worth, and you get access to the juiciest secrets. He plays it super vague with the names, but there is some mega powerful veteran pulling strings behind the scenes. Gray instantly thinks, all right, I just need to outscale this veteran and rewrite the rules myself. Alexandro hammers it home, pure power is everything here. And because of that brutal logic. It's completely wild that Ariel got wrecked by Varian Bradley. He knows one of the students actually stepped up and took Vian down. The director smirks. Her divine eye is sharp, and he is super hyped to see the monster she trains. Meanwhile, our boy Gray is walking the halls, feeling those strange marks expanding on his back. It hits him, this academy runs purely on power. If he wants to crush the liquidator, he has got to uncover the shadow boss running the whole show. Step 1, train like an absolute beast. But out of nowhere, some random kid flying kicks straight at Gray's face. Gray blocks it just in time, sliding back from the heavy impact. The punk smirks, calling Gray tougher than expected. Yeah, that really ticks our hero off. The attacker runs his mouth, saying Gray acts like he owns the joint. He starts trashing Gray, calling him a rejected special admission loser who doesn't belong here. Ah, classic hater of the special students. Gray cracks his knuckles, asking if the kid wants to throw down. The pale boy says yes, but suddenly, backup arrives. Ariel steps up, and the punk immediately chickens out and bails. The beefed-up security kept him from doing real damage, but this confirms it. Varian Bradley is sending goons. Bradley absolutely sent that weirdo to stir up chaos. The kid literally runs to the teacher, lying that Gray, the theory student, just kicked him. He whines that a Divine Eye Special Dimension student has zero right to even walk these sacred hallways. But honestly, with zero injuries or weapons, the teacher can't officially do anything. Instead, she just looks at Gray and tells him to go beat the guy up himself. Gray and Ariel are totally stunned by that wild advice. Teacher Arya smirks. Technically it's against the rules, but hey, she is perfectly willing to look the other way. But Gray, he decides to chill, ignoring the punk to avoid extra drama. Arya is curious though, are Divine Eye students really hated this much? Gray shrugs. Getting mocked is normal, but someone actually throwing hands, that is a total first. Arya feels super bad for them, wishing she had way more authority around this crazy academy. Gray, on the other hand. So what do you and I take from all this? Gray plays it smart and lets it go, keeping his spot safe. Plus, Bella is dead set on proving the divine programmer is absolutely no mistake. Stick with me here, because things are getting wild. Gray knows his teacher's got a crazy eye for the special students destined to fight the liquidator. Ariel thanked him, but straight up told him not to act like a bystander. Out of the entire Divine Eye group, Gray is the one she's hyping up the most. Sure, Amy White, Luke Mueller, and Jacob Bloomfield are all special students destined for top tiers. But Gray, she genuinely believes he can straight up surpass humanity itself. Talk about pressure, right? Gray felt seriously weighed down being compared to those absolute legends. But he quickly shook off that weak mindset. After all, the mastermind behind Vian definitely hasn't given up on summoning the liquidator yet. Gray literally time-traveled back to this timeline just to destroy that monster. The whole world's fate is on him. Anyway, cut to fencing class, time for live combat. The teacher tells everyone to pair up using the board's list. Gray is paying super close attention to this practical training. After all, the regular kids love trash-talking the Divine Eye students. Then he checks the list. He's paired up with Leon Heartapes, literally the best fencing student and the strongest first year. The teacher supposedly grouped similar skill levels together, telling everyone to go all out. Gray is sweating, thinking their skill levels aren't even close to similar. As a total newbie, fighting the academy's top dog seems like a massive setup for failure. Mazaroy knows perfectly well that Leon Hart absolutely hates Divine Eye students. He's probably itching to crush him, but Leon Heartapes calmly walks over, looking totally thrilled. Being the class ace, he's actually super flattered to fight Gray Lee. Leon Hart swears he trained harder than anyone just to fight alongside Gray. Mazaroy notices this crazy, intense gleam hiding in the blonde dude's smile. Watch closely, things are about to pop off. He is totally relishing the chance to legally fight him, as both excitedly step to the center. Everyone starts clashing, and Leon Hart instantly rushes Gray Lee. Mazaroy barely blocks a ridiculously heavy sword strike from the blonde beast. Then, boom, a horizontal slash sends Mazaroy sliding backward, but Leon doesn't stop, charging right back in. Radiating an insane aura, his blade barely misses Gray. In return, Gray Lee swings a massive counterattack, but the blonde prodigy effortlessly blocks it. Leon Hart praises Gray's strength, shocked he didn't get in through normal admission. Their high-speed sword fight turns into a crazy blur of clashing steel. Mazaroy fully expected to get wrecked fast, but surprisingly, he's keeping up. Still, even using both arms, he just can't match Leon Hart's pure brute strength. Mazaroy admits Leon Hart's swordsmanship is absolutely cracked, perfected to a scary level. Even armed with his past life experience and current master's training, This fight is brutal. Seeing Leon Hart push forward radiating crazy mana, Mazaroy realizes he's fighting a literal monster. Their epic duel grabs the whole Academy's attention since Gray is actually holding his own. Leon Hart laughs, saying he could go all day and is having a blast. Meanwhile, Mazaroy is sweating bullets. His stamina won't survive this heavy hitting for much longer. Without Professor Heathcote's hellish training, he'd already be eating dirt. Seriously, how is Leon Hart not even panting right now? The guy is a machine. Mazaroy knows his stamina is tanking fast. He has to end this right now. Then it hits him. The professor said to treat this like an actual, real-life battle. Seeing his opponent raise his arms for a massive strike, Mazaroy spots an opening. He ducks low, plants his hand down, and launches a sweeping kick right at Leon Hart. The dirty move completely knocks his rival off his feet. I know what you're thinking, a kick in a sword fight? Crazy. Leon is shocked, but the ace won't lose easily. It ends with swords pointed at each other's throats. Gray Lee calls it a draw, but Leon Hart completely disagrees. At the very last second, Gray had just wildly swung his blade, while Leon Hart could have easily pierced him for the kill. Treating it like a simulation, Leon specifically aimed for Gray's heart instead of taking his neck. Even with safety gear, aiming for the heart means game over. Shockingly, Leon Hart Apes admits defeat right then and there. Mazaroy gets the difference between real combat and simple fencing practice. Leon agrees, fights aren't just about fancy sword skills. Gray Lee admits throwing a kick in fencing class is totally cheating. But hey, the instructor literally said to treat this like a real-life deathmatch. So by those rules, it was totally fair game. Leon Hart excitedly demands another round. Gray is confused why Leon went easy. In a straight-up clash, Gray would have been crushed. It wasn't just raw technique either. Leon Hart's crazy stamina left him completely eating dust. Suddenly, some random student yells at them to stop. He loudly whines that, real combat or not, this is still a traditional fencing class. Basically, no kicks allowed, only swords. This arrogant jerk can't believe a special admission kid is even fighting the class ace. He tells Gray to stop flexing his little magic tricks, claiming Mazaroy didn't belong here. But Leon snaps back, saying the professor specifically chose Gray as his only worthy opponent. The teacher nods along, totally agreeing. She formed these pairs based on their overall combat strength. Gray is literally the only one who can handle Leon Hart, if the angry kid disagrees. He should step up, beat Gray, and take his spot. Desperate to prove himself, the arrogant guy brags about defeating his entrance examiner, refusing to be compared to barely passing losers. Dylan watches from the sidelines, realizing this fool is massively underestimating Gray's actual power. Treating him like a joke, Dylan thinks this is perfect. Gray's real power deserves public respect, but more importantly, you and I know what comes next. This annoying kid ruined Leon's precious fight time, and for that crime, Leon secretly wants him dead. The teacher offers the safe stages if they hate real rules. Mazaroy knows this normal admission kid won't be a pushover to fight. All right, stick with me here. Gray was dead sure his opponent had way more raw strength. You just can't beat years of proper eating and conditioning. Gray wasn't feeling super confident, but hey, he took the challenge since losing wouldn't get him expelled anyway. Since it was just a practice run, the teacher said to go easy. They locked into their sword stances and rushed each other at lightning speed. Leon totally wanted to humble him, calling Gray a total loser. Their swords clashed hard, sending crazy sparks flying with every single strike. But then Gray twisted his wrist, tossing the guy aside. He noticed Leon's attack was super weak. His strength wasn't even close to Gray's. Gray thought he was holding back, but then the kid wiped out backward, dropping his sword. The guy slammed headfirst into the dirt, and the teacher called the fight right then and there. The teacher apologized, saying she aimed for the sword but hit him. Leon claimed he was caught off guard, and it was a total disaster. Bawling with a bloody face, the dude actually demanded a rematch. The teacher agreed, saying they could keep throwing down until the kid finally tapped out. Leon charged at Gray again with everything he had, but guess what? Same exact result. Homeboy was left sobbing and totally wrecked. Seeing the kids so messed up, the teacher officially ended the match. She quickly told someone to haul him off to the infirmary. So, Gray and Leon became this year's reps. The professor explained the top first years were going head-to-head with the second-year champ. This was a classic cross-year showdown. But the power gap was absolutely insane. The first-year class had already taken 35 massive LS. 1 year of training here changes everything, so losing was totally normal. Putting up a good fight was impressive enough, but if they somehow won, they'd go down in history as a miracle. The teacher told them not to stress, since just being chosen was a huge privilege. Gray honestly thought this upperclassman battle would be way more intense, being a special admit. Watch closely. Gray saw this as the perfect chance to prove his skills, training hard to fight the champion. Meanwhile, the director brought up Budra's brutal proposal at the board meeting, expelling Amy White, a Divine Eye special admit. Ariel managed the Divine Eye crew, but Budra argued that Amy straight up bombed the third-year advancement exam. Yet she got to stay just because of her special status. Super unfair, right? Especially since the other failing kids got the boot. Ariel fired back, claiming Amy was reaching world-class levels, but had an insane physical side, effect blocking her from showing her true power. Budra groaned that they used that same excuse every single time. He snapped that her logic made a useless kid sound like a secret prodigy. Ariel warned that pressuring Amy too soon would ruin her potential forever. Budra, getting seriously ticked off, snapped that Ariel always used these excuses. He demanded to know if her master plan was just keeping kids who couldn't meet academy standards. Ariel clapped back that the school existed to raise elite talents. They had to keep her, even if she totally broke their normal system. Budra argued that special admits used to be epic, but now they were just dead weight. He called out Amy, Bella Albright, and Jacob Bloomfield, saying the program had lost its magic. Then another professor dropped a bomb, abolished the whole program. Ariel was stunned. Sure, the founders set it up ages ago, but clearly, they could tear it down just as fast. Another teacher chimed in, saying the current kids were super underwhelming, and the program totally lost its edge. Someone pointed out Bella improved, but honestly, it wasn't a big deal since her mana levels were basically on the floor. But hey, the old graduates were actually legendary. Because of that insane past legacy, the room was split 50-50 on whether to cancel the whole thing. You and I saw this coming, right? Ariel was floored by the backlash. They might actually kill the program. Budra bluntly called it washed up. He snarkily asked if she was better at spotting talent than everyone else. Ariel desperately wanted to say yes, but bit her tongue. She could tell the staff already hated her vibe. They only cared about how the program benefited the school. To keep them on her side, she had to play it super safe and shut up. Budra savagely claimed she was past her prime with 0 good arguments left. Someone else threw her a bone, mentioning her past glory days. The staff basically told her to retire before ruining her legacy. If she wanted to play favorites, she should just open her own academy. They laughed, saying she'd be crazy lucky to find anyone wanting to join the Divine Eye right now. But Ariel knew she could still spot raw talent. Her kids just needed way more time to level up. With time, they'd prove everyone wrong. She just had to stop them from getting expelled first. Ariel desperately brainstormed a way to save her students. Right then, someone suddenly brought up her newest kid, Gray Lee. They'd heard he was a hyped first-year swordsman. Budra scoffed at that, claiming the kid looked completely basic. Gray's upcoming match would decide the program's future. Ariel glanced at Heathcote, who just shook his head in defeat. Ariel argued Gray's style sucked for practice fights, and he only popped off in life-or-death situations. That made the professor absolutely furious. So what do we think? If Gray fails in training, will he really choke in combat? We're about to find out. Stick with me here. Ariel is furious, yelling that they just don't get Gray's unique style. Alexandro straight up shuts down the meeting. Getting nowhere, he decides that watching this new Divine Eye student actually throw down sounds like the perfect test. Everything is riding on Gray's next match. The meeting wraps up, and man, Budra is practically drooling to see this fight happen. Ariel feels completely trapped, and Heathcote totally notices she is down. She knows Gray's raw abilities are just awful for these safe, fake matches. The kid needs way more time to train, but they are demanding the impossible. Still, she prays Gray can somehow pull through and protect these crazy, talented students. She's begging the universe he saves the special admission program's future. And boom, match day is here, kicking off the huge clash between first and second years. Time for the hype intros. Leon Hart, the top first year, versus Lionel Hartman, the second-year boss. Then comes our boy, Gray Lee, facing off against Debble Radar. And wait, Gray instantly spots Debble as the exact same jerk who randomly kicked him in the hallway earlier. The stands are absolutely packed with teachers ready to judge them. Honestly, Leon Hart is completely confused about why half the faculty showed up today. Even the second-year champ mentions that this crowd is nuts. They never pull an audience this huge for a basic brawl. Last year, only 3 teachers bothered to show up. Appiah smirks and says they must all be here just to watch Gray, totally hyping up his own flawless taste. Budra jumps right in, loudly confirming Leon Hart's suspicions. Everyone is here to witness the absolute final match for the Divine Eye. Now pay attention to this. Budra drops the bomb that the class is getting completely deleted. Gray is shocked, asking Ariel if it's real. Ariel knows telling him the truth will make him go totally overboard. She's terrified he might unleash that hidden power, which, honestly, could completely destroy his body right now. Game over. So she lies. She tells Gray that Budra is just playing cheap mind games and to ignore the trash talk. But honestly, Gray totally notices her hands are shaking. He plays along, but our guy isn't stupid. He knows the score. Budra just wants them publicly embarrassed by the second years. Budra figures a humiliating beatdown will finally prove to the staff that the Divine Eye is a complete joke. Gray is absolutely not letting that slide, especially the disrespect toward Ariel. Even she is shocked when Gray actually steps up to defend her honor. Budra sneers, claiming anyone with a working brain knows Gray is about to get wrecked. Gray just fires back that he'll prove him dead wrong in the arena. This crazy confidence seriously pisses Budra off. The fighters finally split up, heading back to their corners to gear up for the clash. Ariel loves the kid's guts, but she is sweating over his actual game plan. If he was just fighting the normal champ, his basic street skills might have given him a tiny shot, but Debble is a total nightmare. Bradley literally surgically messed with Debble's brain to crank his reflexes to superhuman levels. Debble is the absolute worst matchup for Gray's sneaky fighting style. Ariel is terrified Gray is going to pop his secret skill. She begs him to forget about defending her pride and just play it safe. Gray just flashes this totally chill look and says he's got it under control. The announcer officially kicks off the ace battle, and the reps step up. Magic barriers are cast to prevent anyone from getting totally flatlined. Pop your opponent's shield and you win. Simple rules, just like a real deathmatch. You and I have been waiting for this. The epic top student clash starts right now. Leon Hart rushes the second-year boss, unleashing a crazy flurry of heavy sword strikes. The older guy blocks everything and immediately fires back, but Leon Hart is lightning fast, dropping low to land a savage kick right to the guy's face. But reality hits hard. Leon Hart realizes he just doesn't have Gray's insane stamina, and he is already gassed. The older student smirks, admitting Leon Hart leveled up a ton since last year. Shaking off that kick like it was nothing, he announces it is time to really crank the speed. Going full throttle, he dares Leon Hart to try and keep up. Our blonde hero barely manages to weave through a few nasty strikes. But boom, he gets caught off guard and his shield pops. Lionel is officially crowned the winner of the top student showdown. Now it is time for the main event. The challengers step into the ring. Leon Hart tags out, wishing Gray serious luck for his fight. He tells Gray he better win to stay in the academy, especially after talking all that trash. Honestly, Gray is just remembering the literal monsters he slaughtered before his time regression. Compared to those nightmares, Debble should be an absolute joke. Speaking of the devil, Debble walks up, dragging his heavy blade across the floor. He straight up threatens to send Gray to the afterlife, just like his crazy mentor Bradley. And with that, the inter-year grudge match officially starts. Gray rushes right at Devil. Boom! Their swords smash together, sending massive sparks flying everywhere before Devil brutally shoves Gray backward. Gray immediately feels the crazy pressure. His sword arm starts shaking uncontrollably. Ariel wasn't joking when she said Devil's reflexes and raw power were totally hacked. Seeing this insane power gap, Gray knows his usual street tricks are completely useless here. He is sweating, trying to figure out how to beat this freak. He considers popping his forbidden skill, but Ariel warned him to keep that power totally locked down, no matter what. Winning this tournament is huge, sure. But it is absolutely not worth dying for. Plus, using that insane power. The arena's magic shields might totally shatter, and he could accidentally kill the guy. Suddenly, Devil charges straight in for the kill, desperate to save the class. Gray is willing to risk himself, but he really doesn't want to become a murderer. Out of nowhere, Devil drops low and unleashes a devastatingly heavy slash. Gray barely blocks the hit and swings back hard. He manages to deflect another wild attack, but realizes Devil's broken stats are just too overwhelming to handle directly. You and I saw it, Devil has the skills. He's actually holding back. Alright guys, stick with me here. You're about to see Gray face an absolute maniac. Devil flashes a wicked smile and charges with a heavy strike that Gray literally cannot dodge. Throwing his sword up, Gray knows he's too late. He realizes this dude actually pulled his punch on purpose, just to force Gray onto the defensive. Up in the stands, Teacher Ariel spots some sketchy purple energy pulsating inside Devil. She notices this twisted aura is totally unbalanced, jammed completely into his left side. Everyone's already saying these second-year students are total jerks who could start trouble anytime. The Divine Eye student is getting completely wrecked out there. Honestly, it's making everyone think that special spot might get totally scrapped for good. Budra smugly points out that waiting for these rookies to level up is just asking for a total disaster. The others nod, praising Budra for caring so much about the academy's vibe. But Teacher Ariel isn't having it. She demands they stop the fight before someone gets killed. Budra just laughs in her face, claiming a mock battle is totally safe. Another teacher chimes in, saying the arena's magic barrier automatically blocks all fatal hits. These kids can seriously go all out without dying, unless Ariel is hiding some other reason to panic. Even knowing about the barrier, Ariel can feel it, that shield won't save Gray. Suddenly. Now watch closely, things are about to get insane. Pure, evil purple mana violently explodes from the second year, completely coating his sword for a massive strike. He unleashes the attack, and boom! A massive mana nuke splits the arena in half, completely shattering that protective barrier in the process. The blast almost roasts Budra. Ariel is absolutely furious, realizing Professor Bradley secretly implanted this dark magic into his student to cheat. The spectator's shield is way too thick, blocking her from using her prison spell. She screams to cancel the tournament and drop the barrier right now. She desperately yells for Gray to run away, since stepping in will take way too long. But Gray refuses to run. Turning his back means instant death. The crowd screams in sheer terror as the whole arena starts to shake. She warns that the teacher's spells need 30 long seconds to reach him. Ariel hates risking it, but she has to fully trust Gray's combat skills. She screams at Gray to treat his physical body like a direct extension of his blade. He needs to sync his movements with his raw power. Gray urgently tries to figure it out. He barely dodges a blindingly fast strike. Fueled by his teacher's faith, he is totally locked in to win this. His only shot is becoming one with his sword, and he zones in entirely. A massive shadow strike hurtles straight toward him, but Gray just stands perfectly still. Boom, the hit lands, creating an absolutely massive mana explosion. But wait, Gray flashes with a wild red aura, instantly teleporting right behind his enemy. The enemy is caught totally off guard. From Gray's perspective, the guy is basically moving in slow motion now, proving Gray got excessively fast to land this brutal sneak attack. He unleashes a totally savage sword strike right to the guy's face, but the enemy's emergency shield pops up, blocking the main hit. Still, the impact is so insane that the barrier starts cracking, and the shockwave blasts through. Devil is sent flying like a ragdoll, smashing straight through the arena walls. Gray's power is no joke. He completely smashed the defense and did some major damage. Professor Heat nervously asks if the second-year student, Devil Rardle, is still breathing. Medics rush in, but Bradley's student just casually stands up. He is leaking pitch-black magic everywhere and somehow looks completely fine. Ariel screams at Gray to stay sharp. This isn't over. Devil charges like a wild animal, blasting dark spells right at him. Creepy dark tentacles rip up the floor, lunging straight for Gray. Ariel yells asking if the barrier is down yet, and Heat swears he is trying his best. You and I both see it. Our boy Gray is basically doing parkour, dodging with crazy jumps. Suddenly, Devil closes the distance in a flash and attacks. Sparks fly everywhere as their swords violently collide once again. Gray quickly realizes this dude's speed and raw strength are way too monstrous for any normal human being. Then again, Gray is totally flexing some unnatural power himself right now. He breaks the clash and zips right behind Devil again. Somehow, this monster tanked Gray's ultimate hit, so Gray goes for another massive backstab. But the exact second Gray underestimates his speed, he gets absolutely rocked by a counterattack. He coughs up a massive amount of blood. Teacher Ariel shrieks in pure shock, terrified her favorite student is gonna die. Fighting through absolute blinding pain, Gray knows he has to flip the script right now or he loses. Desperate for power, he snaps, his aura mutating into pure, obsessed rage. Slash, Gray unleashes a strike so clean it literally slices off both of his opponent's arms. Some mysterious inner power forced him to deliver that finisher. Thick, toxic darkness violently spews from the severed stumps. The teachers watch the scene in pure horror until the magic barrier finally drops completely. This allows the teachers to rush the ring, shutting down the fight and instantly locking Devil up. Gray practically collapses onto his sword, completely gassed, clutching his chest as those deep gashes throb with pain. Blood is literally pouring out of him. He is critically wounded. Realizing he might actually die, Ariel instantly hits him with top-tier healing magic. She orders the rest of the staff to help patch him up. His vitals finally stabilize, and a few seconds later, he's back on his feet. The staff is mind-blown by his insane Wolverine-level recovery and asks if he's okay. Ariel breathes a huge sigh of relief. His soul is totally intact. She announces the danger has passed since her magic completely patched him up. The teachers realize Heat was right. Gray's wild strategy perfectly weakened that deadly counterattack. Ariel snaps at Heat. Gray almost died. Trust me, you and I want to see what happens next. Stick with me here, guys. Heat argued they basically nerfed the damage just enough so healing magic could actually do its thing. Anyway, Heat wanted to solo carry the counterattack, but that takes major time. Things got super crazy, and Devil Rardle was already rushing to the infirmary. Through this chaos, one major thing was confirmed. The defensive barrier of the second-year boss, Devil Rardle, was completely shattered by Gray Lee's strike. So yeah, the freshman Gray actually won. The crowd went wild, beating a second year was legendary. Our divine eye prodigy just broke the freshman's 35-loss streak. Heat basically said that losing record was history. After that epic showdown, Ariel's gut feeling was proven completely right. Everyone admitted she nailed it, so canceling the divine eye class was totally scrapped. The director felt super guilty for doubting them. Almost throwing away a generational talent, Ariel thanked Gray Lee, who was busy healing up. The haters wanting the class gone, they were sweating now. Budra was in a messy spot. Playing dumb, Gray Lee lied, claiming he had no idea he could use that insane power. Ariel saw right through him. He had literally spammed that skill against the ogre general. He prayed his teacher would cover for him. To shut down the top brass, Gray needed to be the only one rocking this power. Ariel got the hint, noticing his suspiciously veteran vibe. Now pay attention here. Knowing Gray trusted her completely, Ariel decided to back his play. She told the big boss that standard magic couldn't analyze Gray Lee's abilities, but her own eyes could. Ariel had watched him and chatted with Heat Coat, which basically explained how the kid had such crazy good control. She was still figuring out how to buff it. She boldly asked to handle everything related to Gray Lee's powers. After seeing that wild fight, Director Alexandro literally could not say no. Director Alexandro handed the entire Divine Eye squad over to Gray Lee's team. He told Ariel to just holler if the Academy could help with anything. They were both super hyped that the Divine Eye crew was officially safe. Right after that, they hit the underground alley to check on Debel Redardal. The boss wanted the Divine Eye squad close, so Ariel tagged along to investigate. Checking the battle data, they realized the crazy energy used on Debel Redardal matched the executive's power almost perfectly, leaving zero doubt that the exact same crystals from the Shady Lab were used. The director asked about Debel, and Ariel dropped the bad news: he died. Ariel explained that once the attack fired, Debel Redardal lost his mind completely. That sketchy power probably corrupted him the second it was implanted, proving Gray Lee was the actual target all along. Total payback for Gray taking out V and Bradley. A third shadow group was clearly pulling the strings. Ariel and Gray Lee instantly realized they were dealing with a massive hidden enemy, a whole third faction. I know what you are thinking. A massive conspiracy? Yep. Ariel's gut said the Academy's dark layers were completely involved. Gray Lee stepped up to help his teacher. He mentioned he figured out how to use his power without frying his soul. But Gray Lee admitted his body took a massive beating. Heat Coat suggested they finally level up their training regimen. Ariel said Gray Lee would master this energy better than before. After chatting, Gray marched straight to the training grounds. Heat Coat warned him this method was insanely painful and risky. He even offered some safer, slower options if Gray Lee wanted to chill. Gray Lee chose the hardcore route, so Heat Coat said gear up. Gray focused completely, trying to sync with his blade. A red aura exploded from the sword, wrapping around his body. He unleashed a straight strike, completely obliterating the battlefield armors. Sprinting forward, he spammed sword slashes, wiping out targets. The watching teachers were mind-blown by his insane speed. Gray Lee fired off another attack, wrecking one more armor. But then the backlash hit hard, and he started coughing up actual vital fluid. After one last spinning strike, he crashed to his knees. Completely drained, Gray Lee fainted and totally blacked out. The teachers instantly used recovery magic to heal him. In seconds, Gray Lee felt fine and stood up. Heat Coat noted Gray Lee was tanking way more damage than before, meaning his body was adapting. Gray was so in the zone, he barely noticed. Now he noticed the power seriously hurt him. The professor explained that the intense pain meant he was breaking his own limits. But Heat Coat knew this grind was brutal, leaving the final choice to Gray Lee. Our boy chose to push through, kicking off another intense round. But then Professor Ariel crashed the party and ordered them to stop immediately, saying this was limited to once a day. Gray Lee argued his soul was fine and his body was already totally healed. Ariel fired back that magic only fixes physical cuts. If Gray fries his nerves again, his senses are going to be completely wrecked. Ariel warned she knew the risks best, and he could literally lose his hand's mobility again. Heat Coat nodded, saying he'd also hesitate to spam this hardcore training daily. One mage asked why Gray was rushing to get stronger since he's already a beast. Ariel took the heat, admitting she pushed Gray to fight Bradley. Now the revenge squads are coming for him, and that Debel mess was just the start. She dropped a bomb. Shady groups are running the Academy's underworld, including the criminals who snatched that magic catalyst for Bradley. Even hiding him in max security won't keep him safe. So what do you and I take from this? Getting overpowered is his only survival path. Stick with me here. Gray insists stopping that executive experiment was his call, not hers. Deep down, Gray's real goal is taking down the Liquidator. Ariel, she sees he's a top-tier student and promises to go all out to help him max out his crazy power. Heath immediately catches on Ariel is totally plotting something. She turns to Gray, asking if he wants the absolute fastest, safest cheat code for a swordsman to get stronger. Heath chimes in, just swap out the sword. Fast and easy. That Academy-issued blade was actually supposed to be some high-level custom gear. Ariel points out the truth. Sure, it's great for a freshman, but it totally cannot handle Gray's raw output. Honestly, no regular blade is surviving his insane level of power. Just looking at those shattered pieces. The professor decides to drag him to her own personal vault. Heath is totally stunned. A professor handing out her own legendary loot to a student? Wild. She casually spins a key, tearing open a glowing portal. And just drops that Gray is totally worthy of her stash. Our boy Gray, absolutely speechless, jaw on the floor. Now here's where it gets crazy. Gray steps inside and boom, mountains of gold and insane magical artifacts everywhere. The vault is ridiculously huge. Ariel starts digging around for the armory. Finally finding it, she tells Gray to just go wild and pick a sword that fits his vibe. Looking around, Gray notices these blades look crazy dangerous, seriously intimidating stuff. Heath even chimes in, saying he will literally never find a better weapon stash than this. Ariel gets it, way too many epic choices make it super hard to pick. Normally, she would have him test drive every single one. But with Gray's destructive energy, they can only do this once per blade. So, they start testing them one by one, kicking things off with the absolute sharpest sword in the room. First up, Gray grabs this massively heavy, giant chunk of steel. Ariel hypes it up, saying despite the insane weight, it slices with absolute pinpoint accuracy. A wooden target totem pops up for a test drive. Gray plants his feet, twists his core, and completely unleashes a monster swing. Boom, the strike completely obliterates the wooden totem and the blade, not a single scratch. Ariel admits it hits like a truck, but might be way too clunky for actual combat. Heath completely agrees. It does not matter how sharp the thing is if you literally cannot hit your target with it. Still, keeping it around for super tanky enemies is a pro gamer move. Ariel actually tosses Gray a magic storage pouch so he can lug this giant thing around without breaking his back. Gray is super hesitant, asking if she just normally lends stuff like this out. Ariel brushes it off, saying giving it to him beats letting it collect dust forever. Plus, she would rather hand it over to someone who can actually unleash its true potential. And when Gray finally faces down the enemy pulling Vian's strings, that executive summoner is gonna heavily regret testing him. Hearing this, Gray flashes back to that absolutely brutal beatdown from the liquidator, and it just fires him up even more. He totally thanks the professor for the massive upgrade. Heath quickly warns him, though, do not go flashing this legendary gear around unless you actually plan on swinging it. Why? Because if you sold this thing, it would easily fetch 10 billion and 10,000 gold coins. You saw that reaction, right? Gray is completely panicking over the insane price tag and tries to back out, but Ariel straight up refuses. It is a gift, no takebacks. Gray is just mind-blown that she's throwing this kind of cash at him. Ariel says paying 10 billion to secure the Divine Eye's admission, totally worth the investment. Basically, consider this giant sword a super late bonus for literally saving the Divine Eye earlier. Then she jokingly glares at him, asking if the Divine Eye isn't even worth 10 million to him. Gray instantly folds, sweating bullets, and just awkwardly thanks her. Our black swordsman promises to treat this massive blade like a treasure. But Ariel is not done. She still wants to hook him up with an everyday sword for normal fights. Gray seriously never expected his professor to be sitting on this much epic loot. Heath brags that literally nobody has an eye for quality quite like Ariel does. I mean, with a Divine Eye, printing money is basically effortless. Ariel turns to Heatcoat, the instructor, asking for his top pick out of the pile. Scanning the crazy armory, Heatcoat points straight at a golden-hilted weapon. Gray grabs the super basic, skinny-looking blade for a test swing. He fires off a couple of lightning-fast, clean strikes. The craftsmanship is solid, but Gray immediately feels like the vibe is totally off. Heatcoat immediately calls it. That sword is a terrible match. He remembers this weird experimental blade, thinking it might actually be exactly what our MC needs. Heatcoat pulls out a sword, flashing with neon blue designs. Ariel tells Gray to go ahead and test out this crazy spatial sword. The second his hand hits the hilt, the weapon lights up like crazy, completely blowing his mind. But wait, he notices it doesn't even have a sharp edge. Super weird, right? Heatcoat jumps in, explaining it is pure experimental tech, not really meant for typical battles. It was built just to be completely indestructible, made entirely out of unsharpened, blunt steel. Gray totally gets the play here. With his insane brute strength, a super sharp edge isn't even necessary anymore. Heatcoat argues that a normal blade is just gonna shatter under Gray's crazy output. If he keeps leveling up at this pace, standard weapons are basically just gonna hold him back. Looking ahead, Gray seriously needs to get used to a fighting style where he doesn't just rely on slicing things up to win. Honestly, this high-tech blunt sword could be his absolute perfect match. Heatcoat steps up to demonstrate exactly how it handles. It doesn't just cut, the blunt impact completely crushes whatever it hits. But Ariel thinks Gray should stick to traditional blades for now. She points out the huge armory, casually asking if he wants to maybe test out something other than a sword. Gray checks out some giant axes, but he's totally set on testing every single sword first. He spots this crazy all-red blade that looks way lighter and definitely stronger than the others. But then, his eyes lock onto a different weapon altogether. It is a super long blade practically radiating this bizarre, intense energy. Ariel casually mentions it was just left behind by some old grad student. And that's where we leave it. You just know he found the one. It is not famous, but Gray grabs it and boom, it fits perfectly, like it was made for him. Stick with me here, this gleaming blade is built for pure precision. Gray grabs it and it fits his grip perfectly, like he's wielded it since birth. Gray admits he's never swung a weapon this smooth in his whole life. But Ariel, she suggests testing another blade to see how it handles his crazy power. Gray asks if it's cool if he accidentally shatters this old student's blade. Ariel just smiles, betting the sword would rather be used by him than gather dust. Gray agrees, asking who actually forged the thing. Ariel drops the name, Medellum Norm. Hearing that, Gray's eyes go wide in total shock. Because wait, Medellum Norm is literally the greatest magical blacksmith on the planet. Gray is completely mind-blown that he's holding a masterpiece made by a total legend. Next up, they hit the arena to really put this legendary blade to the test. They need to check its durability, and Ariel wants Gray pushing it to the absolute limit. But first, Ariel hands him a totally different, experimental tech sword. They start with the weirdest weapon just to see how Gray's energy reacts. He locks in, trying to sync with the blade while blasting his mana outward. The connection drops instantly. He tries again, wrapping the steel in his magic, dumping his raw power into it to become one with the weapon. But his power completely fizzles out. Super weird, right? He looks at Ariel, admitting he feels absolutely zero difference from his normal, everyday baseline. Clearly, the blade itself is the issue, so they toss it aside. It just straight up rejects Gray's unique, overpowered abilities. With that bust, they move on to the most normal-looking sword in the bunch. Ariel pulls it from a magic box, telling Gray to go again. He focuses hard, syncing up with the steel, getting ready to strike. And boom, this time his power actually clicks into gear. An insane aura erupts. Now pay attention here. A voice randomly echoes in his head, saying there is no more time. It warns something huge is coming. Heatcoat tells Ariel this blade shouldn't struggle with his energy, shaking off that creepy voice. Gray charges the training dummies, unleashing heavy, laser-precise strikes. The raw damage feels the same, but man, swinging this sword is smooth like butter. A brutal vertical slash absolutely shreds the armor. Feeling crazy light on his feet, he sprints around, dropping effortless combo strikes. He's smashing through defenses left and right. The mages realize he's way faster than last time. Gray sweeps the whole arena, totally wrecking every dummy in sight. Moving at lightning speed, the dude literally feels like he's flying. Landing the final blow, he tastes blood dripping from his mouth. He realizes he just cleared the exact same amount of targets, but this time, all at once. Before, he barely hit half. Now they're all wiped out. Best part? He's actually still standing, not passed out cold on the floor. but the teachers spot heavy blood soaking his shirt from a massive chest wound. Freaking out, Ariel screams at him to drop the weapon immediately. Gray lets go and instantly collapses to his knees. The instructors sprint over in a panic, throwing out healing magic to try and save him. Gray looks super weak, fading fast as a teacher begs him to stop pushing himself so insanely hard. Ariel warns that massive blood loss is tanking his stamina. He needs rest now. But hey, breaking past his old limits, that might just be a divine sign. Ignoring his own injuries like that is crazy dangerous. If he pulls this in a real fight without a healer, he'll be dead meat, but checking the blade, not a single scratch on it, firing up his divine eye. He sees the sword glowing even brighter, completely unfazed by the intense battle. Suddenly, Ariel spots something weird in the sky, going on full alert. Boom, a huge pink explosion rocks the academy. You and I definitely didn't see that coming. Buildings start crumbling everywhere. Students run for their lives as rubble rains down. Teachers scramble, throwing up magical shields. Heathcote yells that the blast hit the high-security vault holding super dangerous gear. Someone is obviously pulling off a massive heist, right after the boom. He spotted someone flash step away with teleportation magic. But wait, that is totally impossible. The vault has crazy anti-teleportation wards built in to tank heavy explosions. Ariel catches a whiff of dark executioner magic mixed into the smoke. They totally used underground lab crystals to blow the outer wall. Gray instantly realizes who did this: Varian Bradley's shady allies. These guys actually had the guts to attack headquarters. As expected, the vault was looted dry. We don't have all the details yet. But no random outsider could cause that blast. They completely wrecked the teleport blocker and bounced. Screaming inside job, this proves the academy is seriously compromised now. Honestly, Ariel is wondering if this place was ever actually safe to begin with. Gray points out that if enemies run the school, they can pull strings to steal absolutely anything. They only blew the vault because getting that item legally was impossible. Ariel ignores the higher-ups. She knows those blood drinkers are guilty. They've definitely infiltrated the campus. Gray remembers these guys took out Bella's dad. Ariel warns him, taking down Varian puts a massive target on his back. She orders him to stay sharp and always watch his back, especially when he is off campus. After that heavy talk, Gray heads downstairs. Walking into class, he spots the other students shaking in absolute terror. Feeling the dread, he figures they're freaking out over the explosion. But nope, they got an alert about an outdoor exam and everyone is panicking. Gray tells Leon he read the rules and honestly, he doesn't care. It's 16 hours of marching and camping inside a monster-infested death zone. Leon is totally stunned Gray is this chill. But hey, trust me, you're going to want to see how wild this exam gets. Let's dive right in, guys. We're back at the academy and this time, survival mode. Sleeping is a joke when monsters are lurking, and honestly, over half the freshmen tap out during this exact task. Gray knows the truth though, in a real Warzone march, you never know when an ambush is coming. Back in his past life, his squad's subjugation training didn't even have a time limit. They literally tossed warriors into the mountains and forced them to march through totally infested woods for a whole week. Recruits actually died from monster attacks back then, even with professors right there. But hey, at least things aren't quite that brutal this time around. Leon notices these hellish drills do not faze our boy at all. He's just built different, while everyone else is terrified. Gray definitely senses something sketchy lurking out there. Right on cue, the professor officially kicks off the legendary annual outdoor survival exam for the freshmen. Fail this and you're basically done, no second year for you. The professor tells them to tough it out, and just like that, the crazy mission officially begins. Our MC reaches the edge of the Wintley continent. Gray remembers this whole area is totally deserted and honestly wonders why. The squad starts marching deep into the woods, trailing behind the staff. One kid speaks up, pointing out they're definitely not on the right path, but the professor just shuts him down. Real training means taking the absolute hardest route. They start climbing this super steep trail, and you can see the burnout hitting everyone. Then the teacher drops a bomb. It has only been 8 hours, and they are only at the halfway mark. The entire class, absolutely drained, realize they have miles to go, and this is literally just day 1. The professor smoothly claims that their bodies will adapt, and the start is always the worst part. But Leon and the crew know he is totally capping, because the pain and fatigue are only getting way worse. Ignoring the teacher's pep talk, they notice Leon isn't even breaking a sweat. Leon hypes himself up, thinking this is the ultimate test for Swordsman, and he has to push past his limits. Plus, he spots that Gray Lee hasn't even been breathing heavy since they started. Now watch closely, things are about to get wild. Out of nowhere, a giant spider jumps right at an exhausted girl's face. Bam! Gray perfectly snipes it with a thrown dagger. Our badass swordsman totally drops the beast, casually warning everyone that the spiders out here are super venomous. Leon realizes Gray isn't just hiking, he's scanning every shadow for an ambush. To hike 8 hours straight and still be this locked in? The guy must have gone through absolute hell in training. Honestly, Gray's stamina is crazy high, because his brutal past life training is still carrying him right now. For our MC, just getting some sleep is a massive upgrade from his old cursed life. But the one thing keeping him on edge right now, Ariel warned him to stay frosty outside the academy walls. And right now, they are sitting ducks in a wide-open area with zero backup. Plus, the academy staff knows exactly where they are. So yeah, our guy is seriously hoping they don't get hit by a surprise boss battle. Suddenly, the professor calls for a halt. Dead tired, the kids ask what the deal is. The teacher, completely out of nowhere, announces it's time for meal training. The whole class instantly lights up, basically drooling over the thought of a massive feast. They're thanking the heavens for the break, ready to absolutely stuff their faces. You saw that trap coming, right? Gray definitely senses a huge red flag with this sketchy meal training. The professor shuts down their dreams fast. This isn't a buffet break, it's a survival lesson. If you want to eat out here, you have to cook it yourself. He then splits everyone up into perfectly balanced squads, so no single team is completely overpowered. He tells the class that every squad gets a designated campsite, with just the bare minimum cooking gear to work with. Team C gets Leon Hart, Appius, Plua, Hides, and Bias. Meanwhile, our boy Gray Lee is leading Squad D, stuck with Basque, Rumia, and Boz. Gray is actually sweating a bit. He thinks nobody wants to take orders from the weird kid with the divine eye. But his squad introduces themselves, and surprisingly, they're all super chill and friendly. They're way more laid back than he thought. Gray was bracing for some massive ego clashes. He straight up asks if they're cool with him calling the shots. But his teammates are just confused. Like, bro, after seeing Gray completely dominate his last match, he's obviously the absolute best choice for squad leader. They trust him completely, instantly grabbing their gear and asking for orders. Gray is honestly stunned by how much their whole vibe has changed. Crushing that previous fight really gave him some solid street cred. He finally gets it. At this academy, your power level is everything. One kid panics, asking what the plan is since the teacher's supplies literally have zero actual food. He holds up a random pot and a fire starter like, is this a joke? Professor Heed coldly states that in real war, nobody hands you a boxed lunch. Appius tries to argue, claiming modern missions use supply lines and awesome magical storage bags. The teacher smirks, yeah, that only works if you actually had time to plan. He steps right up to the kid, dropping some hard truths. If your squad gets ambushed, or your supply guy gets wiped out, you're stuck surviving in the wild with absolutely nothing but the clothes on your back. On top of that, those fancy magical storage bags are incredibly rare and way too expensive for standard grunts. Every single fighter has to carry their own gear, just like they're doing right now. Most people totally break under the pressure and just quit. The whole class goes dead silent, and Leon Hart awkwardly apologizes. Honestly, Gray had zero clue those storage bags were considered super high-tier loot. He's been using his like a cheap gym bag. Now he realizes he's carrying legendary tier gear. But hey, the professor finally drops a shred of good news for the squad. The woods are crawling with monsters, right? but the staff sprayed magical repellent everywhere. So the teacher smugly adds they won't need to stress about hunting for food, because guess what? The repellent is gone. The kids instantly panic, realizing that with the barrier down. These bloodthirsty beasts are coming straight for them. Over in Squad D, the rookies look right at Gray, desperate for a game plan. So what do you and I think his play is? Simple. Gray says it's time to hunt monsters for dinner. He's already tracking their footprints, ready to turn this absolute nightmare into an all-you-can-eat buffet. Stick with me here. You're about to see Gray lead a squad that's totally terrified of real monster combat. Searching this massive forest for beasts seemed insane to them, but Gray calmly explains that if these monsters eat meat, things are actually way easier. They'll come straight to us. Plus, staying still just means fighting other squads for kills, so they have to keep moving. Not into fighting? Cool, they can just eat bugs and snakes instead. In monster-free zones, eating creepy crawlies is basically survival 101. Obviously, one girl speaks up. She's hyped to actually hunt some monsters since this forest is absolutely packed with them. Meanwhile, another teammate reminds everyone that Gray is the boss here. Whatever he says goes. So, Squad D heads deep into the woods, tracking beast prints. Suddenly, Gray catches a weird scent. Incoming. Boom, a massive, vicious bear bursts from the bushes, charging straight at a terrified squad member. The dude is totally frozen seeing a real monster this close. He barely dodges, shocked by how fast it is. Instinct takes over completely. His body moving purely from those brutal academy training exams. He whips out his sword, slides right behind the beast, and yells not to underestimate him. He lands a massive, deep slash, heavily wounding the monster and drawing serious blood. Now watch this. The bear immediately snaps back, swiping its deadly claws right at him. But right before that fatal hit connects, Gray swoops in. With one lightning-fast strike, he totally slices off the bear's hand, saving his buddy from an absolutely brutal ending. Furious, the beast swings its other arm at Gray. Big mistake. Another flash of steel, and the left hand is gone too. In seconds flat, Gray completely finishes the monster off, calmly noting its bones were crazy thick. His teammate, shaking and endlessly grateful. Gray drops some wisdom. Wild monsters can keep attacking even when mortally wounded. He warns the guy to focus on dodging first, not just landing kills. The squad mate admits this is wildly different from sparring with humans. Soon after, they roast up some bear steaks over a campfire. The crew actually likes the taste. Gray explains that monster meat flavor totally depends on the species. He adds that doing your homework on local beasts is crucial for expeditions. If they ever need emergency food in the wild, hunt boars. Why boars? Because they avoid poisonous plants, and their meat is actually pretty decent. When a teammate points out how much he knows about survival. Alongside his sword skills, Gray just plays it cool. He humbly brushes it off, saying his survival knowledge really isn't anything super special. Suddenly, another squad pops out of the trees begging for food. Their own hunt was a total disaster. They even tried eating nasty frogs. Gray casually mentions they have enough roasted bear here to feed a whole class anyway. So, he shares the grub, making the other squad super hyped. But nope, the professor instantly shuts it down, team trading is banned, everyone hunts for themselves. The prof kicks the hungry squad out, sending them back into the brutal woods. After another long hike, they finally stop. The professor announces this spot is their campsite, and from here on out, it's officially a hardcore field survival exam. Squad D is thrilled they actually ate, while others just straight up collapse. One student nervously asks if they gotta hunt more tomorrow. But Professor Rent says no, they get canned food and solo tents for camp. But they gotta gather materials and build everything themselves right now. You and I know peace never lasts here. They must set up night watches because surprise attacks are guaranteed. Anything goes for defense. The prof overhears some shady students whispering about bending the rules to survive the night. He loudly reminds them they were spread out on purpose to prevent resting. Boom, the survival training starts right this second. Faster setup means more sleep. Simple. Gray instantly gathers his squad to figure out their night watch rotation strategy. The crew suggests pairing up so everyone gets half a night's rest, but Gray insists on solo shifts to maximize everyone's sleep time. A teammate points out that the first and last shifts are chill, while the middle shift is pure torture for your sleep cycle. Because he's a boss, Gray takes that brutal middle shift himself, asking who's got the guts for the third rotation. That purple-haired kid Gray saved earlier jumps right on the third shift. Meanwhile, Rumia, Bask, and Benaz lock down the first watch. The rule is simple. When your watch is done, you wake up the next guy before you pass out for the night. While Gray rests, Rumia guards the flickering fire. Out of nowhere, a dark figure gripping a dagger creeps silently right toward Gray's tent. Rumia suddenly gets hit with an unnatural, heavy drowsiness, but as the assassin nears, Gray's eyes snap open. Hearing a weird rustle, he instantly grabs his sword. He knows monsters don't sneak like that, they're loud and chaotic. This was way too quiet. It was, without a doubt, a human trying really hard to stay hidden. Peeking through the fabric, Gray only sees Rumia out there, nodding off into dreamland. Since she heard nothing, he almost thinks he imagined it. But Gray's instincts scream that someone is out there, so he gets up. Could it just be the professor testing their security? Maybe. But Gray isn't risking anything, keeping his guard up to investigate himself. Ariel's warning echoes in his head. Beating Varia meant he'd have absolute creeps and bloodsuckers coming right for his neck. She told him to watch his back outside the academy. Treating this silent stalker like a literal assassin, he gears up for the worst. Trust me, this is where it gets crazy. Knowing staying still is a death trap, Gray slips out, leaving Rumia clueless in the dark. All right, you and I are jumping right back into the madness. Leaving the girl behind, Gray sneaks through the moonlit forest. With that full moon, basically broad daylight, spotting enemies is super easy, but hiding, way harder. Still, Gray creeps forward like a ghost. He's remembering his old divine bow training. Back in his past life, Ariel taught him the exact trick for this. You have to start walking from the back of your feet, then roll onto your toes for absolute silence. Heels touch last, zero noise, even if he steps on some crunchy leaves or a random branch. That way, it completely hides the normal rhythm of human footsteps. Anyone listening would just think it's an animal or the wind passing by. Back during his intense, divine bow training, they trekked barefoot through the mountains, basically becoming one with nature. And Gray is following that advice flawlessly. Boom, he spots a guy gripping a dagger. Gray tosses some rocks, baiting the intruder right into his trap. In a flash, Gray points his sword straight at the man's neck, telling him not to move an inch. He demands answers, threatening to end him if he lies. Who are you, and what's your affiliation? But wait, it's just the old professor with the mustache. Gray casually asks, is this just another surprise attack for our grade? The professor quickly explains he was just testing to see if they were guarding the camp. He definitely didn't expect a student to sneak up and put a blade to his throat. Honestly, at this point, it's hard to tell who's actually teaching who here. Now watch closely here. Gray totally thinks the professor is faking it, so he keeps his guard up. A real assassin would definitely pack a much deadlier weapon. Realizing the old man is harmless, Gray finally drops his sword. Right on cue, Rumia bursts in, weapon drawn, checking out the noise. Seeing both of them standing there, she asks what on earth is going on. The professor explains he was just testing their camp security, but Gray had already spotted him before he even got close. He admits their setup is basically flawless. Never in his life has he seen freshmen run a camp this well. Rumia points out Gray was supposed to be fast asleep. The professor finds it super weird that Gray wasn't even on guard duty. Then Gray hits him with a question. Did you step on a branch coming in? The old man sheepishly admits that yeah, he did. And Gray casually explains he recognized the sound as human footsteps. The professor is absolutely mind-blown. This kid actually sensed a stealth attack from a single branch snap while he was sleeping. Gray just downplays the whole thing, saying he wasn't in a deep sleep and just got super lucky. The professor literally starts cracking up, because on top of yesterday's insane mock battle, Gray is just breaking all the rules. Is there literally anything left to teach this guy? So he outright bans Gray from the Night Watch training. Think about it. If Gray just solos everything, the other kids won't learn a thing. Gray wonders if ditching his squad will ruin their score. Nope, the professor promises no attacks between 1 and 3 a.m. Gray's group is getting a free pass, even without him there. Perfect score on the guard test, 0 strings attached. The professor jots it down and tells the rest of the squad to keep training. Walking away, it finally hits the professor. Gray literally sneaked up behind him without making a single sound. He seriously wonders if Gray belongs to some elite stealth squad. But no, that's completely impossible for a kid his age. Still, he has to admit the boy's skills are just unbelievably high. It seriously makes him question who Gray really is. Anyway, dawn breaks, and it's time to hit the road again. The students are basically zombies right now. Constant fake attacks kept them up all night, but our guy Gray, he continues leading Squad D like an absolute boss, showing 0 signs of being tired. After another brutal day of marching, night finally falls again. They set up camp, desperately hoping to just get some sleep. The professor steps up and announces the day's training is officially over. No more crazy activities tonight. Tents are already pitched, so they can just kick back and relax while waiting for the food. Everyone scarfs down the food and passes out instantly. But Gray, you and I both know this is super sus, right? Gray finds all this resting weird, knowing tomorrow will be pure hell. Meanwhile, Leon confidently chats up Gray Lay, bragging that he's gonna crush whatever training comes next. Then, Professor Heathcote busts out a massive feast. The professors bring out these massive buckets, telling everyone there is plenty of grub and they can eat as much as they want. After surviving 2 straight days of absolute torture, they totally earned this break. But wait, the professor flashes this totally evil smirk. Oh yeah, tomorrow is going to be brutal. Morning hits, the march resumes, and boom, a massive, imposing mountain blocks their path. The hardcore training in Mount Gastja's danger zone is officially starting. The squads follow the professor right up the trail leading to Mount Gastja. Even though the kids were totally spooked seeing it at first, keeping up a steady pace is giving them some serious confidence. Nobody's dropped out yet. Makes sense, considering they all survived the academy's insane entrance exam. But the professor shuts that down fast. The real nightmare starts in exactly 2 kilometers. They're stepping right into water lizard territory. These things, way beefier than anything they fought during the foraging test. One wrong move and they're kicked out or literally dead. Total panic rips through the squad. These monsters are no joke. The professor lays out the rules. Stay totally undetected, since this is a 2-week training in a major danger zone. During the dry season, these water lizards hibernate to save up their energy. If everyone keeps completely quiet, maybe the lizards won't even notice they're there. But here is the terrifying catch. Since it's so dry, these beasts are insanely thirsty for any kind of liquid. You know, like the blood pumping through human veins. If those lizards hear so much as a peep, it's instant game over. This gives Gray major flashbacks to his old monster hunting days. Are you and I ready for this? The professor mentions that. Stick with me here, guys. This training is an absolute breeze for Gray Lai since he already hunts monsters. But the other students? Probably doomed. Looking back, Professor Rent spots his students clomping around like absolute elephants. Completely annoyed, he snaps and tells everyone they need to walk way slower. He makes it super clear, 0 noise means they stay alive. They just have to keep up that creeping pace. Rent warns them they absolutely cannot camp in water lizard territory, leaving the kids totally exhausted. Seeing 0 instructions, Gray Lee just assumes they learned about safe zones before this. But honestly, they were still being way too loud. The professor drills it into their heads again, keep quiet or else. The whole squad keeps marching, and the professor drops a heavy warning. From the next checkpoint on, absolute dead silence. 1 single peep means losing major points. So, they keep moving up, only using hand signals like a tactical squad. Even on mute, the students just treat this like some basic hiking trail. Moving this slow actually makes the whole thing feel like a total cakewalk. Because of that, these rookies get super confident, thinking there are 0 monsters around. They seriously doubt the academy would actually let them get wiped out. They think the monsters are totally fake. But pay attention here, because everything goes sideways fast. Out of nowhere, a kid slips on a rock and smacks the ground hard. He isn't scared of monsters, just terrified of losing his precious grade points. Big mistake. Seconds later, giant water lizards swarm the entire group. Panic hits as everyone, teachers and students, desperately draws their swords. The clumsy kid just freezes, absolutely paralyzed as these massive beasts straight up launch themselves right at the squad. Thankfully, Professor Heathcote jumps in like a total boss. He swings his blade, stabbing one lizard right in the head for an instant kill. But another beast aggressively charges the students. Leon steps up, slashing his sword right against the monster's thick hide. And guess what? Not even a single scratch. The angry lizard instantly switches aggro, rushing straight at Leon. Then, suddenly, Heathcote dashes over, punching the massive beast to save his student. He yells that these rookies are way too weak, ordering a massive fallback. The teachers quickly circle the monsters, shouting for the kids to fall back. The rookies realize something terrifying. Even the pro teachers are barely leaving scratches on these things, knowing their skill levels are basically garbage right now. The professor explains the strat: drain a little of their body fluid, and the dry season heat will finish them off. Leon nervously asks what happens during the rainy season. The answer: absolute nightmare fuel. In the rain, humans become an all-you-can-eat buffet for these brutal lizards. That's exactly why they only hike when there is zero chance of rain. With the nearby lizards wiped out, he finally gives them the green light to talk. Honestly, one wrong word earlier would have gotten them killed. The squad pushes forward, climbing higher up. They finally hit the peak, dropping a few more monsters on the way. Once Heathcote officially calls it, the drained students just completely collapse into the dirt. Leon feels physically fine, but his brain is absolutely fried. Holding back every single sound made that hike insanely stressful. Everyone is dying here, but Leon plays it totally cool. Heathcote casually drops that lizard ambushes have gotten incredibly brutal lately. He warns them back to silent mode once they cross this zone. Then, he asks if anyone has any burning questions. Gray Lee speaks up. Something is seriously creeping him out. He points at a weird, dark cloud that's getting uncomfortably close. Heathcote spots it too and quickly checks in with Professor Wormel. Wormel admits it's basically impossible for rain clouds to form in this dry season. The storm grows fast. You and I both know this spells trouble. They decide to cancel everything. But Wormel, he actually argues they should keep going despite the rain. Heathcote completely disagrees, saying this creepy cloud is a massive red flag. He pushes that student safety matters way more than grades. But Wormel pulls rank, bragging about his years of experience and demanding they trust his guts. Mustache Guy Wormel orders everyone to straight up double time it, to beat the incoming downpour. He actually calls this a solid training opportunity. He tells the kids to run like their lives depend on it, acting super confident in their skills. He claims they can survive the rain. His orders: do not lag behind and absolutely ignore any lizards. His final rule: dead silence. But as Gray watches the sky, a massive, torrential downpour suddenly hits them hard. Heathcote feels the insane humidity and realizes something is super wrong. He heavily suspects this freak storm is pure, artificial magic. Even Wormel finally admits this rain makes zero sense. Leon nervously yells out, asking if it's really safe to talk out loud right now. Perfect timing, because a massive, supercharged water lizard spawns right behind Wormel. The absolute beast slams into the teacher with bone-crushing force. Amazingly, Wormel dodges the fatal hit and strikes back, burying his sharp blade deep into the monster's arm. The beast screams and whips its heavy tail right at him. Wormel barely manages to block the insane impact. He deals some decent damage before getting completely blasted away. The students panic, but the tough professor staggers back up. Leon is stunned. A pro teacher should easily dodge that, yet Wormel is seriously bleeding out here, even while playing full defense. These kids are terrified. And honestly, you and I would be too. The rain just gave these monsters a massive speed boost. Heathcote screams at everyone to lock in. Weapons out, the elite teachers charge right into the chaos, absolutely ready to obliterate these beasts. All right, grab your snacks and stick with me. He smashes the monster's back. But Heathcote gets caught off guard by a brutal tail whip and goes flying. The giant lizard charges, but Heathcote bounces right back up and completely obliterates the beast. All 4 professors team up and finally put those monsters down. But man, they are completely beat up. Continuing this training session? Yeah, not happening in this state. Wormel officially cancels the exercise, yelling for everyone to cast an emergency teleport. But the female professor drops some heavy news. She has been trying to activate that escape spell for a while now, and it is totally dead. Somebody asks if anyone else can cast it. Another professor chimes in, the teleportation magic is completely blocked, and between this crazy heavy rain and the dead escape route, they realize someone is intentionally trapping them here. Wormel is absolutely stunned, panicking about how they are ever going to survive this. Someone suggests digging in and just waiting out the storm. Heathcote thinks this massive downpour might be totally artificial, meaning it has to end eventually, right? They all agree it is way safer to just hunker down. Fighting their way out with 0 energy left is a guaranteed game over. Luckily, that first insane battle ended with 0 casualties. Trusting that. Heathcote read the room, the medics rush to heal Wormel. But here is the kicker, these water lizards get way more aggressive in the rain. Heathcote knows sitting around makes them sitting ducks, so he is racking his brain for an exit strategy. Suddenly, our boy Gray steps right up. He confidently tells them that with recovery magic backing him up, he can absolutely fight. Heathcote admits that with Gray's insane raw power, they might actually break through enemy lines. The kid's body just might be tough enough to survive it. Now pay attention, because things get wild here. Gray knows waiting means certain death, but Heathcote throws out a massive warning. Using his ultimate form twice in one day completely breaks Ariel's strict rules. She totally banned it. But Gray? He literally sees this as the perfect leveling up opportunity. With top-tier healers backing him, he is ready to risk it all. Heathcote argues back, if healing could fix this, Ariel would not have banned it. Gray just claps back. There is literally no other way to get these kids home alive. He asks if Heathcote prefers letting everyone die just to keep him safe. Ariel literally warned Heathcote that Gray loves pulling this heroic sacrifice stuff. She begged the professor not to let him do permanent damage, crunching the horrible numbers. Heathcote decides to completely ignore Ariel's warning and tells Gray to gear up. Gray is in, but Wormel jumps in, super mad they are going rogue. She knows Gray was an absolute beast in the tournament, but betting everyone's lives on one single high schooler. That is absolutely insane. But Heathcote counters hard. Gray's power level is off the charts, he could easily solo a water lizard. Because of that, they need to go all in on the kid's mysterious abilities. Professor Morgan, however, is completely against this wild plan. He insists calling headquarters for rescue is the safest play. Glock points out he already sent an SOS. But all comms are completely jammed. Galak is ready to rumble, but they gotta wait. The mustache guy argues that moving now just gets them killed. He challenges Heathcote, asking if he seriously wants to drag these students into a slaughter. Another monster wave would literally wipe them out, so sitting tight and praying for backup is way better than wandering into the danger zone. He tells the kids to shut up so the monsters do not smell their fear. You feel that chill, right? The kids are hiding under the trees, and boom, freshwater lizards crash the party. Total panic. Heathcote draws his blade, locking in for combat. Right beside him, Gray pulls his sword, ready for war. The beast leaps right at them, and boom, the squad goes on the offensive, moving like lightning. The teachers slash from all sides, but one gets wrecked by a massive tail whip. Seeing this, Heathcote just blitzes the lizard with insanely fast combo strikes. Working together, they finally drop one of those massive reptiles. A healer instantly patches up the guy hit by the tail, but all that noise just drew 2 more angry lizards straight toward them. They charge in. Gray preps his sword, but Heathcote shuts it down. Protecting the kids is the professor's job. That is the World Union way. Striking an absolutely epic pose, They blitz the beasts with godlike speed, while the students just watch in total awe. They are completely blown away. Handling a 2-on-1 fight flawlessly, these teachers are showing what peak combat level actually looks like. Heathcote barks out orders, focus all firepower on a single target to thin out the herd, without missing a single beat. They dodge perfectly and gang up on one lizard. One teacher drives his sword right through the monster's chest. The students go wild, another monster down, only one left. The teachers barely took a scratch, and the healer is keeping them fully buffed. It looks like a guaranteed win for the pros. They rally together and charge the final lizard. But out of nowhere, 2 armed dudes with swords just spawn right behind the teachers. Can you even believe what we just watched? Gray literally slices off both professors' arms with one clean strike. Everyone is totally paralyzed while Gray keeps swinging. Insanely, Heathcote actually thanks him. Now, he and the last standing professor step up to keep those lizards distracted. Stick with me here, because this academy trip just went from bad to completely unhinged. With the last lizard dead, the professor corners the 2 traitors, demanding to know why they backstabbed Heathcote. He demands some answers right now. Sweating, Wormel straight up lies, claiming a lizard just accidentally ripped his arm off during the chaos. The other bulky professor backs up this massive lie, and get this, demands they actually arrest our boy Gray Lee instead. But the loyal professor isn't buying it. He calls out their blatant betrayal, pointing out that these top-tier fencing students aren't totally blind. Everyone saw them try to pull a fast one. Heathcote casually drops that kidnapping and assassination attempts on academy kids are basically Tuesday, since this school is packed with super valuable VIPs and tons of enemies. Stuff like this happens all the time. He figures out these traitors just used the lizard attack to take out a professor. With the guards busy, their master plan was to either wipe the students out or kidnap them for some seriously shady underworld business. Hearing this twisted plan, the fencing squad is absolutely shell-shocked. Heathcote tells everyone they only made it out alive because Gray Lee reacted so fast. Our main character realizes Heathcote was completely aware from minute 1. The guy already saw right through the 2 professors' sloppy attempt at a backstab. Wormel panics, wondering how their secret plan leaked. For Gray Lee, though, it's easy. He just reads their shady eye movements and combat stances like an open book. The mustachioed traitor's footwork was entirely offensive, aiming right at his own team instead of defending. Honestly, at first, Gray Lee just thought the guy was completely trash at fighting. But once the rain hit, his weird behavior clicked. Taking hits he could easily dodge, acting totally out of character. Yeah, that set off massive red flags. Our hero tapped into his power for just a second, realizing the guy's injuries were totally fake. Basically just a bad bruise, and he wasn't even acting hurt. Now pay close attention, because this is where the traitor fully snaps. He drops the act, laughing like an absolute maniac, telling Gray Lee it's too late. He gloats that they completely missed the real plan. Now they are completely trapped in this heavy rain, totally surrounded by bloodthirsty aquatic lizards. Worse, a massive teleportation blocker is up. No escape magic works, and backup is definitely not getting here in time. He brags that figuring it out changes absolutely nothing. It's game over for them, and he boldly claims every single student here is going to die. But plot twist, wiping them out wasn't the actual goal. He wants to drag them along to force them into their twisted scheme. Heathcote demands to know exactly how they expect to escape this mess. The mustachioed traitor smirks, saying Wormel's only condition is that Rant, Heathcote, and Gray Lee stab themselves right in the heart. They can't bring anyone strong enough to ruin their mission. If the heavy hitters sacrifice themselves, the students get to live. Wormel tries a nasty guilt trip, asking if they'll really hesitate when kids' lives are on the line. Just then, someone steps out of the shadows, and our boy instantly teleports behind him. In a literal flash, Gray Lee has his blade pressed right against the new guy's throat. Seeing this hostage situation, Wormel yells that this changes absolutely nothing. Our MC presses the blade deeper. He knows this specific guy controls the teleportation magic. He points out that running a stealthy Comms jammer inside the academy is normally impossible, but having the head magic professor right in your pocket, that makes bypassing security a total breeze. Heathcote actually praises Gray Lee's crazy sharp instincts here. Not missing a beat, Gray points his sword right at the magic professor running the comms, barking in absolute order. Fire up the teleportation circle right now and warp every single student and professor down to the mountain base. Say no, he loses an eye. Keep playing games? The second eye gets completely carved out too. He is not messing around. You and I both know MC isn't bluffing here. He threatens to chop off every single finger. Drop someone in the wrong spot or leave a kid behind, he'll make him regret breathing. Wormel screams at Professor Galek, ordering him not to cast the spell. But the guy has literal swords at his neck and totally freezes up. Seeing the hesitation, Heathcote decides playtime is over and launches a massive, full-power strike right at him. But Professor Rant totally dodges it, dropping to his knees and literally crying in panic. He slams his hands down, instantly activating the massive warp circle around all the students. The magic flashes and boom, the entire squad safely hits the base of the mountain. Down there, the freshman fencing crew finally arrives back at the academy gates. Rich steps up, reporting that their routine lizard hunt turned into a total disaster zone, forcing an emergency evac. Why? Because their own faculty members literally tried to assassinate them. He names the two magic teachers working alongside Wormel. And instantly, every single student backs up Rich's crazy story about the murder plot. They explain how insanely close to death they were. Leon chimes in, hyping up how Gray Lee and Heathcote figured it out and basically carried the team. A senior staff member rushes over, asking if anyone needs a medic. The healer steps in and immediately realizes the two traitor professors are missing their right hands. To keep any shady informants from running off, she locks down the area, handcuffing everyone. Then she announces that every single student is getting questioned. Better get ready. Meanwhile, the suspect professors are hauled off for solo interrogations. The top-tier directors and staff handle the grilling. Once all their stories line up perfectly, everyone gathers in the main courtroom. Director Alexandro slams his gavel, demanding absolute silence. It's time for the final verdict on the freshman kidnapping and assassination attempt. He declares Wormel, the trip boss, and his buddy Balin guilty of masterminding it. Oh, and they had help from two emergency magic professors, Galek and Rant, who abused their powers to trap and kidnap the kids. They went all in on this filthy criminal plot. With zero excuses left, the Academy's ironclad laws come down hard on all of them. So what do we learn here? Traitors get the ultimate penalty: death. Now, the hunt for their shadowy accomplices begins. Stick with me, guys. These traitors face brutal interrogation, actual torture if needed, and then straight-up execution. The director promises a slow, agonizing fate. When Armin whines that he already spilled everything and begs to skip the torture, the director just glares at him cold as ice. Feeling the director's insane killer intent, Armin panics and bolts. But a professor snatches him mid-run and slams him hard into the floor. Heathcote actually gets injured in the chaos. The director, absolutely furious now, orders the three main villains dragged off for questioning. Gayak is guilty too, but he flipped at the last second to help the students out. That clutch move scores him a reduced sentence, so he actually survives. Saving the kids minimized the damage, meaning he dodges the death penalty completely. But honestly, staying alive might suck worse, since Gayak faces some massive, brutal consequences. Heathcote knows Gray Lee faced total hell right after joining the academy. But crazy enough, he notices the kid is totally unfazed, like he's totally used to this kind of drama. Heathcote never expected this many literal criminals hiding out as professors. Honestly, he finds it super hard too. Believe this dump is supposed to be the world's absolute best school. It is nothing like the prestigious academy he pictured before signing up. Now here is where it gets interesting. Heathcote mentions some folks don't even see this place as a school, but as a brutal selection ground where only the strongest kids enter. The graduates are epic purely because they started out overpowered. Meanwhile, the actual teachers are pretty weak. He asks the kid what he thinks, and Gray Lee admits that exact thought crosses his mind all the time. But one thing is for sure, he leveled up massive amounts here. He is way stronger now than back in his tiny village, not even a contest. He totally agrees about not trusting the academy itself. But hey, there are still a few solid, trustworthy teachers around, like Heathcote and Ariel. For Gray Lee, that is plenty. Heathcote smiles, realizing the kid is not just kissing up as a student, but genuinely cares about them as real friends. He warns the kid that training is about to get insanely hardcore. Everything they did so far, just light stretching, a basic warm-up for the real nightmare ahead. Heathcote promises Gray Lee is about to see a massive power jump. Gray definitely hopes so, since getting super overpowered is literally his life goal. Later, everyone gets hyped up for surviving the field march, despite the wild chaos. They all get huge props. Basic physical training, officially complete. But before explaining the next crazy phase, Heathcote decides to show off exactly what he expects from them. Watch this insane flex. A professor steps up and completely obliterates a solid metal pillar, 145 millimeters thick, in one single shot. The professor drops a bomb. If they can slice that thing in a single strike, they get instantly promoted straight into their second year. But if they fail to do it by semester end, bam, expelled, every single year. You catch that, right? Half the class fails and gets booted every year. The professor emphasizes that graduating from the World Union Academy is super rare, with most kids just quitting or getting kicked out. He explains their future post-expulsion depends on when they get dropped. If a freshman gets the boot, they just transfer to a regular boring school back home. But thanks to this elite hell training, they easily skip a grade and dominate as the top student. Or, if they want cash, they can straight up join the Royal Guard as an elite swordsman. To regular folks, anyone who even gets accepted into the World Union Academy is basically a walking god, definitely not a normal person. Even the dropouts are crazy talented, just not peak tier. Gray Lee suddenly remembers his master, Arya, talking about the insane skill gap between this place and normal schools. The professor tells them to chill out about getting expelled and just focus everything on slicing that massive pillar. The kids are freaking out, asking if cutting it is actually physically possible. The professor just hands a random kid a sword and says, "Test it out yourself." The guy takes a massive swing at the pillar, but the blade violently bounces off. After that wild impact, his wrist is absolutely screaming in pain from the crazy recoil. The professor totally roasts him, saying a real swordsman never ever drops their weapon under any circumstances. Gray Lee asks if custom weapons are allowed, because honestly, if he uses that epic blade Ariel gifted him, he could smash this test easily, but the professor shuts him down, only standard academy swords allowed. Gray realizes that with his current gear, he could probably slice it right now using his crazy hidden powers. But wait, if this is a strict test for promotion, he must do it without his cheat skill. He brainstorms how to combo his pure technique and raw strength perfectly. Gray knows his potential is off the charts, future executioner tier. Flashing back to his past life drama, he gets incredibly fired up to become an absolute beast. Seeing everyone sweating bullets, the professor laughs. He knows they are all wondering if a normal human can actually slice solid metal with a basic sword, or if they need broken, monster strength like Gray Lee just to pass. He sets them straight. The veteran teachers here are actually way stronger than Gray. Even without giant muscles, the gap in pure power between a rookie and a pro teacher is completely absurd. The secret? Pumping raw life force straight into the blade. Gray Lee remembers this from his past life. Aura is literally just super compressed ether energy. The academy actually invented a way to hack this into swordsmanship, and now they are teaching the kids. The professor explains that nowadays, they don't need boring magic theory to do it. He pulls out a literal demonic sword that forces life energy directly into the steel. That is where we leave it. Trust me, once they feel that power, they can use normal swords. Who is stepping up first? You and I will have to wait. Stick with me here, because watching these students freeze up over this life-draining demonic sword is absolutely wild. Gray Lee thinks the name is weird, but hey, anything for a power-up. But right as he volunteers, Leon throws his hand up too. Leon is still super salty about being useless against those water lizards earlier. Now, the professor totally knows Gray Lee can handle this weapon. But using our overpowered MC as a baseline? Bad idea. So, he calls Leon up to the front to test out this creepy sword instead. The prodigy grabs the hilt and immediately feels his energy getting sucked dry. The teacher yells at him to swing fast, then sheath it. Leon Hart slashes the pillar, slicing it halfway through. The raw power he unleashes almost completely blasts the target to pieces. But the backlash is completely absurd and he passes out. Leon gets the blade sheathed, but crawls around with zero strength. The staff rushes in to check his vitals. Professor Rent casually mentions this is totally normal and warns everyone not to overdo it. This life force exhaustion is just temporary. He says Leon will bounce back after resting, and honestly, he did way better than expected. After all, the kid managed to hold onto the weapon. Next up, Gray Lee. Everyone is mind blown that Gray Lee doesn't even hesitate. Even after watching Leon completely wipe out, he just steps right up. Now watch closely, because this gets crazy. Gray Lee draws the sword and instantly feels his life force draining. He knows he has seconds left. Our MC charges the target, unleashing a lightning-fast, devastating slash. But surprisingly, even his crazy strength cannot completely shatter the entire pillar. Gray Lee realizes this is nothing like a normal weapon. His blood literally feels frozen solid. Yet, he sheaths the blade looking completely unfazed. Professor Rent is totally stunned to see a freshman standing. Thanks to Heathcote and his brutal training, Gray Lee has insanely deep energy reserves. Or maybe his body is just so used to taking damage and running on empty. Rent asks if he can do it again. Gray Lee draws the sword and strikes the pillar a second time, but then he blacks out completely. At least he sheaths the weapon before passing out. Rent says he was only joking and never actually expected him to swing it again. Now he totally gets how Gray got so overpowered so young, while they recover. Rent faces the rest of the class. He explains that using life force for swordsmanship creates absolutely next-level, devastating power. A total newbie can almost obliterate a steel target. And get this, only the World Union Academy actually teaches this insane technique properly. No other place touches it. He asks the class why. One student guesses it is because this demonic weapon could literally kill you dead. But Professor Rent shuts that down. Nobody has ever died using this thing. It stops draining energy once you black out. Leon guesses it is just because the weapons are incredibly rare. Rent shoots that down too, they have 30 of them. The real reason? Real combat usage caused massive casualties, so now they restrict it to academy grounds only. You and I both know the deal here. If you black out during a real battle, the enemy is going to instantly wipe you out. You have to keep moving after swinging it. Gray points out that nobody outside this academy can actually pull that off. Rent completely agrees, saying a one-hit wonder is useless. You only master this weapon when swinging it feels as natural as breathing. Otherwise, the sword is wielding you, not the other way around. That is exactly how so many fighters ended up losing their lives to this blade. The students are totally freaking out over the danger. But tough luck, everyone has to master this crazy power just to reach their second year. Rent happily announces that these demonic blades will be mandatory for their very next session. He dismisses class, warning them to practice without passing out and missing other lessons. Gray Lee absolutely has to figure out how to handle this power. Blacking out after one strike is totally useless. Same goes for his chain doors ability. Every time he uses that secret move, he completely blacks out. At this rate, he needs a healer. He has to master at least one to defeat the Liquidator. Honestly, this confirms that joining the academy was the best decision he ever made. No better place to level up. Combining this power with his secret technique makes him an absolute monster. Over at the second training ground, a student watches in pure shock as Gray Lee, practically shreds a pillar with rapid strikes. He takes a 3-minute breather after every swing. Burning mana helps his life force recover faster. Gray is totally getting the hang of it. It is inefficient, but he tests a normal blade, risking total collapse. He refuses to let that overpowered sensation fade from his body. Right as he goes for another draw, a classmate interrupts. They tell him Professor Ariel wants him to practice the life force blade solo. But she wants to watch. The student runs off to get her, telling Gray to wait right there. Gray Lee waits around, totally surprised since he thought Ariel was slammed with work. The student guesses she actually predicted his insane progress and cleared her schedule. Our boy is stunned. She knew he would master this in a single day. He expected her divine eye to be strong, but this level of foresight is just crazy. Ariel apologizes for waiting and says to resume training. A mysterious hooded woman stands beside her, and her hidden face makes Gray super indignant. Ariel brings a healing team to restore his vitality. Trust me, you and I are about to see his craziest training arc finally begin. Let's dive into some absolute madness today. Gray starts training with the magical life-draining sword to get the feel for it, while Ariel just watches, letting him trust his gut. He hits a wild spinning move with that demon energy sword. Then he charges straight at the pillar, landing a brutal strike that nearly turns it to dust. The whole point, getting back that crazy feeling he had earlier, now holding a totally normal sword. Gray tries to recreate pulling that raw life force right out of his own body. Locking in, he remembers the feeling, and suddenly, vital energy starts pumping straight from his heart. But as that heart energy floods into the blade, powering it up, something completely wrong happens. Boom. Gray's whole arm turns glowing red, hijacked by the Black Swordsman's power. This insane energy was totally different from normal life force, and now they were mixing. His life force is merging with the wild power from that door, and this new energy is starving for more. So, his actual life is getting drained against his will. Watch closely right here, because things go off the rails. He loses total control, and then slash, a swordmaster completely chops Gray's arm off. Honestly, his arm was packed with monstrous energy, basically a bomb. Chopping it off was the only way to stop disaster. Ariel already knew these crazy special powers reject normal life force. Rumor has it the last guy with the divine eye also went through pure hell trying to mix the two. The badass who amputated him, that is the healing magic teacher, Rafa Elixir. And while working her magic, Rafa realizes his energy is straight up bizarre. First, she stops the bleeding. Then, she triggers forced regeneration magic. Instantly, Gray's right arm, that just got sliced off, literally starts growing back. Bones, muscles, everything just knits together. Ariel sits there, totally amazed by this top-tier technique. Rafa is just thrilled she picked the healer class. She even thanks Professor Ariel for spotting her crazy good talent for healing in the first place. Rafa figures Gray Lee will be out cold for hours, saying to hit her up if things get weird. But soon after, Gray Lee wakes up in a totally unfamiliar room. Professor Ariel is right there, asking if he remembers anything. Gray Lee thinks back. The second he tried flexing that life force sword, the dark power in his arm just completely short-circuited. His entire life force got sucked dry right before his arm got totally hacked off. Waking up, Gray was completely stunned to see his arm attached again, with zero memory of the aftermath. Ariel sees his brain isn't mush and tosses him some food. Eating up, Gray asks if she knew he'd explode like that. Ariel admits she wasn't fully sure, but there is some crazy history here. She brings up the time Amy White messed with life force. That exact incident is why Ariel made sure to supervise Gray's little training session today. Gray is absolutely floored that the legendary sword, Saint Amy White, dealt with this too. Ariel explains that Amy couldn't handle the conflicting energies, and her arm literally detonated. Gray's jaw drops. The sword saint blew her own arm to pieces, but his just went rogue, because his didn't explode. She didn't need an amputation, but the trauma she went through was absolutely massive. Honestly, she is still terrified of using her life force even now. Gray figures out that despite the PTSD, Amy still mastered the skill eventually. Professor Ariel nods, saying it was an incredibly brutal grind to get that power under control. So Gray asks, how did she actually pull it off? Ariel reveals they slapped a hardcore magic contract on Amy to suppress the Sword Saint's chaotic energy. They slowly loosened the contract while Amy trained, letting her push out just pure life force. This blows Gray's mind. He had no clue contracts could even work like that. I know what you're thinking, easy fix, right? Well, Professor Ariel shuts that down fast. This trick won't do anything against Gray's totally alien power. Amy's aura broke the contract in under 3 minutes. With Gray's terrifying energy, they would be extremely lucky if the seal held for half a second. Long story short, the easy way out is a total no-go. Professor Ariel feels super bad she can't find a safe workaround for his life force training. Especially since his dark power is basically an anomaly with zero rulebook. She does tell him that using life force isn't technically a lost cause. But he'd have to grind through an insane amount of training just to isolate the life force. The big problem here, though. She literally can't think of any method that lets him train safely without going completely nuclear. Gray realizes if he blows up every single time, standard practice is dead in the water. So he pitches an absolutely unhinged idea: just chop off his arm every time he loses control. If someone can spam high-tier healing magic, he can keep grinding indefinitely. Professor Ariel is literally left speechless by this psycho plan. She slowly nods, saying she can definitely arrange a healer. But asks if he really wants to endure that torture, since skipping life force entirely is totally fine. Honestly, Gray's raw stats are already way stronger than that life-draining sword. Even with just his base skills, he could absolutely crush the Ascension exam without it. But Gray isn't just trying to scrape by into his second year. He wants absolute power, doing whatever it takes to level up even just a tiny bit. Ariel kinda saw this crazy answer coming. So, she agrees to provide the healing magic and a dedicated arm chopper for whenever he completely loses it. Step 1, Gray grabs the life-draining magic sword to max out his senses. Step 2, he just needs a volunteer on standby to literally sever his limb. The professor orders the guards to strike the second Gray goes rogue. Even if his arm takes a full day to regrow, he won't actually bleed out and die. It is about to be the most agonizing, torturous training arc ever. But Professor Ariel is entirely backing Gray's insane grind. Gray thanks her for actually supporting this completely unhinged path to God-tier strength. Meanwhile, the regular students are struggling miserably to knock down pillars with their life force. They think they are making progress, but the recoil literally makes them pass out. Because of that brutal drain, they all throw in the towel after barely 30 minutes. Pushing harder would destroy them. But as they leave, Gray rolls up holding 2 swords. And trust me, you are going to want to see what happens next. Stick with me here, you're about to see some insane dedication. The squad finally realized Gray hadn't passed out once, his stamina totally outclassing theirs. Returning the next morning, Gray was already swinging away. They were absolutely floored to find out he'd been swinging that life-draining magic sword since the crack of dawn. Sure, he was the academy's top dog, but they still thought their eyes were playing tricks. One classmate figured he was only doing short, light reps and taking huge breaks, since normal bodies tap out completely after 30 minutes. Going nonstop from sunrise to sunset, everyone agreed that would literally kill him dead. Right on cue, Gray swapped his blades, completely blacked out, and ate dirt. Let's pause for a second, because here's the crazy part. He thought spamming the sword would unlock its secrets. Instead, Gray realized he was clueless about this demonic life-draining weapon. His instructor never actually taught him this hardcore routine. It was purely his own raw, completely self-taught training method being put to the ultimate test. Could he pull out his own life force without needing the blade? Remembering the liquidator, Gray shook off the heavy vibes and locked right back in. He had to push through and finish this epic grind. Closing his eyes, Gray channeled 100% focus into absorbing that raw life force. Trust me, you're going to love this. Drawing his blade, he unleashed a flawless strike that utterly wrecked the pillar. Was this his first time cleanly slicing a fresh end? Ridiculously massive pillar.